Chapter 648. In front of her was a tall and straight figure. Li Jianyue looked up and saw the blazing sun shining on the top. The man in front of her was also looking down at her against the light. His delicate facial features and well-defined lines were exactly the same as the photos Li Jianyue had seen. The little girl's eyes were wide open and she shouted, "It's really Dad!" The sweet voice melted Li Xiqing's heart. No one taught her, and she called him Dad so clearly, which caught Li Xiqing off guard. As if something had hit him, an indescribable emotion suddenly came over him. A strange sense of happiness suddenly invaded him. Li Xiqing squatted down and held Li Jianyue in his arms. Looking at her little face, which was somewhat similar to Su Qianxi's, he smiled. However, his throat seemed to be blocked by something, and his eyes were slightly sore. Li Xiqing wanted to speak, but he could not say a word. Li Jianyue looked at the strange and familiar man in front of her, blinked, and touched Li Xiqing's ear with her soft palm. But when she touched it, she immediately let go. The little girl smiled happily. Li Xiqing stroked her soft hair with two small braids. His hands were slightly trembling. Li Xiqing noticed his nervousness and felt a little funny. Chuckling, Li Xiqing held the little girl and whispered, "Do you know me?" "Yes." Li Jianyue reached out and grabbed his arm. Her voice was sweet, and she looked at him with a smile. "Your Dad." Everyone inside clearly heard Li Jianyue's crisp voice. Except for Su Qianxi, everyone was shocked. Xiqing. Qin Shuhua was surprised and found it hard to believe. She quickly walked to the door. But before she reached the door, she saw a tall figure holding a little girl coming in. Familiar eyes, familiar outline. Who else could it be but Li Xiqing? "Oh, my mother." Qin Shuhua blurted out and subconsciously took 2 steps back. In less than 2 seconds, her tears were overflowing. She asked incredulously with a trembling voice, "Xiqing?" Li Xiqing held the child, nodded and called, "Mom." Qin Shuhua was too excited to speak. She walked up and asked, "Is it really you? Is it really my son?" Captain Li saw Li Xiqing behind, and his eyes were also wide open, looking at the figure incredulously. Li Jianxian stood behind Su Qianxi, watching the man in the photo suddenly come to life. He was so shocked that he clenched his hands. Li Mosen's eyes were wide open, looking at Li Jianyue, who was being held by her father. Su Qianxi saw him coming in with his daughter and smiled. She looked down at him and said, "Dad." Hearing that, Li Jianxian pursed his lips and did not speak. A pair of eyebrows that were the same as Li Xiqing's looked at him with incomprehensible anger. However, Li Xiqing had no time to look elsewhere. Qin Shuhua walked over to him and put a pair of old hands on his body. Feeling this real touch, Qin Shuhua could not help but sob. "You're finally back. You're still alive." Everyone thought he was dead. Su Qianxi's belief was regarded as a psychopath by all of them. Chapter 649. Her son was back. Her son did not die. He really did not die. He really came back. Qin Shuhua burst into tears and opened her arms to hug Li Xiqing. Li Jianrui did not quite understand what this meant. It was the first time that she saw her grandmother crying, and crying so sadly. She pouted and cried with her. "Wow." Li Xiqing held the little girl in one hand and his mother in the other. He chuckled, his eyes slightly red. Gently patting Qin Shuhua's back, Li Xiqing chuckled and said, "Don't cry. The child is crying because of you." "Grandma, don't cry." Li Jianrui pouted, her face slightly red. Her eyebrows, nose and eyes were slightly pink, and her round face was wrinkled. Qin Shuhua also smiled and reached out to Li Jianrui. "Grandma, hug me." Li Jianrui leaned toward Qin Shuhua. From a distance, she heard the sound of crutches hitting the ground. The old man came up a little aggressively. Li Xiqing looked at him and called, "Grandpa." Hearing this call, the old man's eyes turned red, and he swung the crutches down hard. Su Qianxi exclaimed, and Qin Shuhua also came up to him. Li Xiqing was hit with the crutches, but he did not move. Instead, he stood straighter and became a standard military posture. The old man wasn't satisfied with just one hit, so he raised his walking stick and hit his legs again and again. He didn't mix any water in his strikes. Su Qianxi subconsciously thought of the scene of him being beaten half to death in the warehouse 4 years ago. Her heart ached and tears rushed down. She ran forward to protect him and shouted, "Grandpa, don't hit him anymore." It was also because of this that Su Qianxi found that Grandpa had long been in tears. At this moment being blocked by her, he gasped and put down the crutches, choking and shouting, "Okay, okay." Li Xiqing gently pushed Su Qianxi away, looked at the old man and said, "Grandpa, continue." The old man's heart was even more suffocated, and he roared, "Do you really think I don't dare?" Then he picked up the crutches and hit him hard. Li Xiqing's body was still as straight as a pine tree. "You've grown up. Now that you've grown up, you don't even want your family, your wife, and your children anymore. You little bastard." Every sentence that the old man said was a hard blow. "Since you didn't die and stayed outside for 4 years, why didn't you just die outside? Why did you come back, you little ingrate?" More than a dozen whips followed. Each whips brought the distinct sound of flesh being whipped. It scared Qin Shuhua and the children. Li Jianxian and Li Mosin were secretly afraid. Li Jianyue was even more direct. She was so scared that she cried. "Why did great-grandpa hit Daddy?" Li Jianyue cried out. "It hurts." Su Qianxi was distressed, but he did not let her go over, so she had to watch. Hearing her daughter's cry, Su Qianxi also cried. Finally, the old man was tired and stopped. Seeing this, Su Qianxi immediately went up and checked his body. She was so distressed that she burst into tears. "Does it hurt?" He held her hand and gently shook his head. His voice was low and soft as he said slowly, "It doesn't hurt." Chapter 650. Su Qianxi pouted and did not speak. She held Li Xiqing's hand silently and sobbed. "When your father comes back, let him whip you a few times. I'm so angry." Captain Li slammed his crutch on the ground looking angry. Lu Sa had not seen Li Xiqing for a long time. She stood on the side with red eyes and tried to smooth things over. "Well, it's better to be back than anything else. Captain Li, have a good rest." Captain Li snorted and sat down on the sofa with his crutch. Finally it was over. Su Qianxi breathed a sigh of relief, looked at the 2 boys who had been standing on the side, and waved at Li Jianxian. "Desu, come here." Li Jianxian heard it, but did not go over. Instead, he opened his eyes and looked at the tall man next to Su Qianxi. Li Xiqing also looked at him. His eyes were deeper, with a bit of bright light, looking at Li Jianxian's dark and clear eyes. The father and son looked at each other for a long time, and Li Jianxian took the lead and said in an unfriendly tone, "Are you my father?" Li Xiqing heard the little guy's tone, slightly raised an eyebrow and asked, "What do you think?" Yes, there was no doubt that he was. Since childhood, Su Qianxi would show them photos of Li Xiqing, pointing to the person in the photo and telling them, "This is Dad, this is your father." Moreover, this face was very similar to his own. Li Jianxian knew that he looked very similar to this man. When the elders saw him, they would say, "This is Xiqing's son at a glance, and he looked so similar." Every time Li Jianxian responded politely, but only he knew that he did not want to look like this person. Su Qianxi reminded them every time that Dad was not dead, and would come back sooner or later. Everyone thought that she was crazy, but he knew that was not the case. He had heard the conversation between his uncle and her. They had been looking for the news of this man, and had not found him. But they all believed that he was still alive. Not only the conversation between his uncle and his mother, but he had also heard the conversation between his mother and his grandparents. He knew that they always knew that he was not dead. But why did he not come back for so many years? Li Jianxian could not understand. If this man really had such deep feelings for home and wife as they said, why did he not go home? At this moment, hearing Li Xiqing's rhetorical question, Li Jianxian felt even more uncomfortable. Looking at Li Xiqing, he pursed his lips and did not make a sound. Su Qianxi noticed that Li Jianxian was not right and said, "Li, let's go in and do our homework." Li Jianxian frowned and glared at Li Xiqing. His childish voice was a little fierce as he shouted, "I don't want to." As he said that, he turned to look at Li Mosin and hooked his arm. "Mosin, let's go in and do our homework." Su Qianxi was a little upset. She grabbed the little guy's arm and said sternly, "You can't do this. He's your dad." Su Qianxi. Li Jianxian turned his head and blushed. "Mom, I always thought that Uncle Lu would be our father. He doesn't want you anymore. Why do you still want me to call him Dad? Li Jianqian's words shocked everyone, and Su Qianxi was slightly stunned. The little fellow had already flung her hand away and ran inside. Chapter 651. This little guy actually remembered it until now? Su Qianxi felt a little suffocated, and looked up at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing came over and pulled her up. His pair of bright eyes were also a little gloomy at this moment. Su Qianxi did not know that Li Jianqian would have such a reaction, and comforted him. You just came back. He may be just not used to it. He will get better slowly. Li Xiqing grabbed her hand, his eyes were softer, and his voice was soft. Maybe. Captain Li sat on the sofa, and heard Li Jianqian's words. He also felt uncomfortable, but more than that he felt guilty. These words were what he said to the children. In order to let the children win over Su Qianxi and accept Lu Yihan, he often encouraged in front of the children. Uncle Lu is likely to be your father in the future. You must listen to Uncle Lu. So, well, he seemed to have done something not very good. Captain Li pretended to know nothing, turned his head, picked up the remote control, and turned on the TV. There was a doorbell outside, and Lu saw open the door. It was Luo Zhan. As soon as Luo Zhan entered the door, he saw Li Xiqing. His eyes widened, and Luo Zhan almost ran up to him and gave him a big hug. Li Xiqing laughed and gently patted him on the back. Luo Zhan's eyes were slightly red, and he hammered him hard and said with hatred, "Where have you been these years?" Li Xiqing had just been hit a few times on the back. Being hammered like this, he felt a dull pain. Taking a breath, he pushed him away and said, "Doing something big." "Something big? What's so big that you have been gone for so many years?" Li Xiqing did not explain, blocked his fist and asked, "Where is Ming?" "That guy." "Ah." Luo Zhan sighed, and looked at Li Xiqing with a very complicated look. "How did you survive?" I thought. Not only him, but many people had already thought that he was dead. Luo Zhan had always thought that Su Qianxi was crazy and unwilling to accept the facts. But now seeing Li Xiqing, a living person in front of him, Luo Zhan suddenly realized. How was Su Qianxi crazy? She was more clear-headed than anyone else. Now this person who should have died had come back to life. Li Xiqing heard the question and chuckled. "Let's talk about it together when Ming comes. I'm sorry for him." Although he didn't know much about Ming's recent situation, he had heard a little about it. After Yu Lily had a miscarriage, as Ming's best friend, he should have been by his side to help him. Who knew that such a thing would happen? Based on Ming's personality, although he would not say it, Li Xiqing knew that Ming must feel very guilty. Luo Zhan nodded, and picked up his phone to call Ming. This time, Ming accepted it. "Hello." Ming's voice came. Li Xiqing took the phone from Luo Zhan's hand and called, "Ming." There was a moment of silence on the other side. Then there was a loud clatter. It sounded like he dropped his phone. Luo Zhan was silent, and so was Li Xiqing. After a long while, Ming's voice was heard. He forced himself to be calm and asked, "Luo Zhan." "It's me," Li Xiqing said. His voice was calm, with a smile that was hard to detect. Chapter 652. "It's me," Li Xiqing repeated. There was no response from Ming, but after a long while he called out, "No way, Li Xiqing?" Li Xiqing smiled and teased, "I haven't seen you for more than 4 years. Are you stupid?" Ming felt that he was dreaming. He pinched himself hard, then hung up the phone, and directly pressed the video call button. The other side quickly picked up, and Li Xiqing's face came into view. "You are still alive? Still alive? Still alive?" Ming asked a few questions, his face full of disbelief. "Are you really still King alive? Not dead? What do you think?" Li Xiqing asked rhetorically. Ming only felt that his whole body was burning, but at the same time, his eyes were immediately covered with a layer of unknown mist. His eyes were tingling and slightly red, and he asked excitedly, "Where are you?" "Home, the old house." "Wait for me. I am on a business trip in the capital." Ming immediately called his assistant. "Help me book the fastest ticket back to Kingstown." The assistant was dazed and said, "But they are still waiting for us to sign the contract. Tomorrow, there is a cooperation with Shengfeng, and the day after tomorrow." Cancel all of them. Oming waved his hand, making the assistant look a little embarrassed. No need. Li Xiqing stopped him and said with a smile, you go ahead. This time I will not leave. Oming heard this, and saw the assistant's embarrassed expression. After a long while he nodded and said, okay, remember to wait for me. Of course. Li Xiqing smiled slightly, stretched out his fist through the phone screen, and gently bumped it. Oming also reached out his hand, as if he had touched his fist. Seeing this, the assistant went out again and closed the door. For a time, in the entire conference room, only Oming was left. Oming felt a pain in his heart. He sat back in the chair, and even breathing was a little difficult. Finally he was back. He was still alive. He was still alive. He was finally back. How good he was back. What about her? It was as if the face he had not seen for 4 years appeared in his mind. Her domineering manner, her every action, it was all vividly engraved in his mind. 4 years ago, she gave birth to his child. She said firmly, Oming, do you really think that you are so charming? Don't King tease me. My purpose was clear from the beginning. I want your money. Now that I have enough money to spend, it's normal for me to want to break up with him. Why should I have your child? I'm not that cheap. I did it on purpose. I did it on purpose. I didn't want your child, so I drugged him. Who told you to touch me? It's not my fault now. You killed your own child with your own hands. At that time, he was so angry that he slapped her across the face and almost choked her to death on the bed. In the end, the nurse came in just in time and asked someone to pull him away. Lily's eyes were red. She covered her neck and glared at him. Oming, you will regret this. Regret? The only thing I regret is sleeping with a woman like you. Because of you I killed my brother. Unless my brother comes back to life, otherwise, I will never have anything to do with you in this life. Get out. Don't appear in Kingstown in the future, or I will find someone to kill you. B*TH. Too tired. It was too tiring to keep a woman who did not care about him. Oming put his hands on the table and held his head in pain. Chapter 653. He didn't know how long he stayed in the office alone. The secretary knocked on the door, walked in and said, Mr. O, the partner is here. Well, let him sit for a while. Yes. Oming quickly stood up, went to the bathroom to wash his face, and then went out. After throwing the phone back to Luozhan, the two sat on the sofa in the living room and chatted. Su Qianxi went to the children's room and found that Li Jianqian was playing games with Li Mosen in the room, and Li Jianyue was playing dolls with Qin Shuhua in Grandma's room. The children's room was covered with colorful foam mats. Li Jianqian was sitting on the ground at the moment, and his phone was on the bed. Su Qianxi watched him play, and when he killed the monster she said, Daisu. Li Jianqian did not turn his head and continued to play. Are you not happy that Dad is back? Dad has been out for so long, and he wants to see you and Ursu. He has always liked you. Why don't you call him Dad? Li Jianqian was killed in the game. He threw his phone away unhappily, stood up, and stamped his feet. Su Qianxi pulled Li Jianqian down and put her hands around the little guy so that he could not go away. She said, Go out with me and call me Dad, okay? Li Mosen was playing the game, pricking up his ears to listen to the movement here. He had been killed several times. Not good. Li Jianqian struggled to get up unhappily. After finding that he couldn't struggle, he calmed down and said, I don't like him. Why, he is your father. I just don't like him, I hate him. Li Jianqian glanced at Su Qianxi and said, He doesn't want you and doesn't cherish you at all. He is not as good to you as Uncle Lu. Over the years, how Luohan treated Su Qianxi, everyone had seen it. However, Su Qianxi was just a simple friend to Luohan. She never thought that even Li Jianqian, a little guy less than 4 years old, could see it so clearly. Su Qianxi was slightly stunned, pinched his face and whispered, Uncle Lu is Uncle Lu. How can he be compared with Dad? Why not? Uncle Lu can also be our father. Uncle Lu is very good to us. Isn't that right, Mosen? Li Jianqian looked at Li Mosen. Li Mosen blinked when he heard that. He wanted to nod, but when he saw Su Qianxi's face, he immediately lowered his head and did not say anything. When Li Jianqian saw this, he snorted. What are you afraid of? My mother won't hit you. Everyone says that your father is a very, very powerful person. He made a lot of money at a very young age. He bought a lot of big houses and a lot of cars. The cars in our yard were all bought by your father. This is what Grandma and Uncle Luo told me. He is very powerful. Lee Mosin put his phone aside and rested his chin on the bed. He said in a childish voice, a pair of blue eyes blinking, and his dark brown hair swaying slightly in the wind of the fan. Your father is still the best. Everyone says that your father is a very, very powerful person. He earned a lot of money at a very young age. Uft, Uncle Lu also has a big house and a car. She was silent for a moment before she asked, why do you like Uncle Lu so much? The little boy glanced at Su Qianxi and said without hesitation, because Uncle Lu likes you. Chapter 654. No. If he liked you, he would not have left for so long. Li Jianxian's eyes were the same as Li Xiqing's, dark and clear. Looking at Su Qianxi with his bright and beautiful eyes, he said, if you really love someone, you will not be willing to leave. Hearing this, Su Qianxi was shocked. It was hard to believe that this was actually said by a child who was less than 4 years old. Looking at him, she was slightly dazed. This is what Uncle Lu told me, Li Jianxian said. Su Qianxi was a little moved, and her smile disappeared. She reached out and pinched the little guy's face. Thinking of Lu Yihan, her eyes were a little dim. She said, your father has his own difficulties. He was used by the bad guys to protect me. Now the bad guys were defeated by Dad, so Dad is back. Li Jianxian's eyes widened, and he looked at her unhappily. Mom, do you think I am Ursu? Su Qianxi smiled and whispered, do you remember the last time you and your sister were kidnapped? Yes, the little rabbit was played to death by Ursu. Yes. Su Qianxi smiled even wider. At that time, didn't there appear an uncle with glasses and a hat? Do you remember? Yes, that bad uncle also wanted to catch us. Fortunately, Mom came, or we would have been taken away. No. Su Qianxi shook her head. That person was Dad, but at that time, Dad could not recognize us, so he had to wear a hat and glasses. And the last time at the amusement park, Mom and Ursu almost died. Do you remember? Yes, but because he was still too short, he could not see what happened. It was Lu Yihan who told them later. That time, it was Dad who saved Mom and your sister. The sun was very hot that day, and Dad was sweating all over. After carrying your sister down, he came to pick me up. If Dad did not stop me in time, you would not have a mother in the future. Li Jianxian heard this and felt a little incredible. Really? Of course it's true. Su Qianxi tapped his nose. When did Mom lie to you? But Uncle Lu said that Mom had an illusion. That person was just a kind passerby. It was not that person. That person was long dead. It turns out that he is not dead, isn't it? That day will be him. Li Jianxian was speechless, but he was still a little unconvinced. Then why did he run away later? You made Mom cry so sadly. Why did you make Mom cry? If you love someone, you can't make them cry, right? Did Uncle Lu teach you this? Hearing a 3-year-old say this from time to time, Su Qianxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Li Jianxian looked up and said confidently, yes, Uncle Lu has taught me many things, unlike that person, who has never cared about us since we were young. Hey, Daesu. Su Qianxi suddenly felt a bit exhausted. This little guy was just like his dad, stubborn as soon as he decided on something. Ursa was the best. She was simple and obedient. Although she was not as smart as Daesu, she was much easier to discipline. She felt helpless. Holding the little guy in her arms, she was about to say something when she heard footsteps coming from outside. The familiar frequency was Li Xiqing. Chapter 655. His son was a little repulsed. Li Xiqing could see it, especially when he heard him call him Uncle Lu. He felt like a cat was scratching his heart. He wanted to catch the little guy and teach him a lesson to see who was his father. But he couldn't. Li Xiqing had a headache, took off his shoes, and went into the colorful floor mat. Li Jianxian was watching Li Mosin play the game. Li Xiqing walked to the middle of the 2 small beds and squatted down, just opposite them, and asked, what are you playing? New game. I don't know what it's called. Li Mosin answered. He tried to kill the monster with his hands, but he was killed after a few moves. He was a little dejected and shouted, "It's too difficult to kill this big boss. I've died so many times. I'll do it." Li Jianxian took the phone and killed the monster, but after a long time, he was killed twice. He was so angry that he threw the phone away. "It's too difficult to play. I don't want to play anymore." The phone happened to be thrown in front of Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing picked it up with his big hand and clicked to start again. Wow! Wow! The sound of the monster being killed came constantly, and Li Mosin's thumb moved. He immediately went to the opposite side to watch Li Xiqing play. Xiao xiao xiao. This was the sound of a big move in the game, and Li Jianxian knew it clearly. However, the big move he made was usually gone after 2 or 3 sounds, but Li Xiqing's big move was nonstop. Wow! So powerful! Li Mosin exclaimed. "Desu, come and see, your father is so powerful." Li Xiqing heard this, "Your father," and immediately had a better impression of Li Mosin. His fingers moved quickly on the phone, and then Li Mosin's exclamation was even louder. "Wow, wow, the monster is dying. He's down to half his HP." Li Jianxian's ears moved, and his heart was a little itchy, but he still did not go over. He said with a straight face, "He is an adult, of course he is powerful." Su Qianxi laughed and said, "But Dad is playing for the first time. I am also an adult, but I don't know how to play this game." Li Jianxian pouted and sat straight. Bang! The sound of the big boss being killed rang out. Li Mosin's face was already full of admiration. "Uncle is so powerful, much more powerful than Uncle Luo. This is the second level." Li Xiqing's eyes softened as he handed the phone to Li Mosin. "Come on, call me if you can't beat him." "Thank you, Uncle." Li Mosin happily took it and ran to Li Jianxian's side. He sat on the ground and played with it. Li Jianxian watched him play and couldn't help but look up at the man sitting opposite. Li Xiqing was also looking at him. His dark and beautiful eyes were unspeakably deep. Li Jianxian met his gaze and blushed. He snorted and turned his head away, ignoring him. Su Qianxi felt a little distressed. When she was about to say something, Li Xiqing pushed her away and said, "Let's go outside." Li Jianxian was a little surprised. He thought that this man would talk to him. Does he not want me to forgive him? Why wasn't she talking to him? Li Jianxian felt a little angry. There was a lump in his throat, but he held it in. Su Qianxi looked at Li Jianxian and nodded. She stood up and walked out with Li Xiqing. Seeing that they were really ignoring him, Li Jianxian's little face scrunched up in anger and he shouted, "What's the big deal?" Chapter 656. Both Su Qianxi and Li Xiqing heard Li Jianxian's words. Su Qianxi was shocked, but Li Xiqing curled his lips as if he had expected it. "Don't you go in and comfort him?" This was the first time Su Qianxi had seen the little guy so agitated, as if he was angry. Obviously, he was angered by Li Xiqing. If she did not go in and comfort him, would it make him hate Li Xiqing even more? Thinking of this, Su Qianxi felt a bit distressed. She knew that Li Jianxian liked Lu Yihan very much, but she did not expect that he liked him to this extent. It could be said that Li Jianxian regarded Lu Yihan as his father. This guy was 4 years younger than Lu Yihan, and Li Jianxian was so stubborn. If he was annoyed again, what should she do? Li Xiqing did not care. Seeing her expression, he smiled and put his arm around her waist, whispering, "I have my own plan. This boy is my son, and I know him better than you. Go, you don't even know him. How do you know him?" Su Qianxi pushed him, thinking he was comforting her. Li Xiqing rubbed her hair and chuckled. "How can I not know him? He also came out of my body." Su Qianxi blushed and reached out to hit him. "Go, be serious." Li Xiqing grabbed her hand and pushed her against the wall in front of them. Rubbing his thighs gently, he whispered in her ear, "I can be more improper, you know." Su Qianxi's face was even hotter, and her heart suddenly sped up. She whispered, "Stop it. We are still in the hallway. It is not good to be seen by the children." Li Xiqing laughed, pulled her up, put his arm around her waist, and walked out of the living room with her. Before they went out, they heard Li Jinnan's voice. Li Xiqing had not seen his younger brother for too long. Hearing his voice, he could not help but speed up, but as soon as he went out, he was immediately surprised and shocked. Li Xiao and Li Beixing were also in the living room. looking a bit dusty, as if they had just come back. Noticing the movement behind them, Li Xiao and Li Beixing both turned their heads and looked over. Li Beixing looked like he had seen a ghost and was dumbfounded. Li Xiao, on the other hand, was slightly stunned. He looked at his daughter-in-law, who seemed to be in a good mood, and found it hard to believe. Li Beixing immediately got up from the sofa and walked up to Li Xiqing. Touching him, he exclaimed, "Oh my God, he's alive!" Su Qianxi couldn't help laughing. Even Li Xiqing couldn't help but smile and call out, "Brother, Dad, third brother, I'm back." It was a familiar voice, a familiar face, but his figure seemed much thinner. Li Beixing laughed loudly, opened his arms and hugged Li Xiqing. Unable to contain his joy, he said, almost cheering, "Second brother. It really is second bro." Li Xiao was behind and saw everything clearly. Holding his cap in his hand, he walked toward Li Xiqing. Li Xiao's eyes were slightly red. After 4 years, Li Xiao's hair had turned white, and he looked much older. Li Xiqing's heart ached. Looking at Li Xiao, he gently pushed Li Beixing away and said, "Dad." Li Xiao walked up and reached out to touch him. He put his hand on his arm and nodded. "You're back." His voice was slightly choked, so faint that it was hard to hear. Li Xiqing nodded. When he was about to speak, he heard Li Xiao roar, "Kneel!" Dash. Chapter 657. This shout, which caught everyone off guard, caused everyone to be startled. Last time, in the study, Li Xiao asked him to kneel, but he did not. At that time, Li Xiqing stood straight and said that he was not wrong. This time, Li Xiqing looked unexpectedly calm. He gently pushed Su Qianxi away, bent his legs and knelt down. "I'm sorry, Dad. I was wrong." Li Xiao looked at Li Xiqing's bluntness and gasped. Eyes red, he roared, "Beixing, bring me my military whip." "No need." An old voice came gently. Captain Li walked toward Li Xiqing with a cane. Glaring at Li Xiqing, he raised his cane and hit Li Xiqing twice. "I have already hit this bastard dozens of times. My hands are sore. Do you want to kill him?" Li Xiao went up to help Captain Li, and did not say anything. Li Beixing took a glance and pretended to be deaf and dumb, pretending not to hear anything. Li Xiao stared at Li Xiqing, snorted and asked, "Where the hell have you been these years?" Li Xiqing was silent for a moment, looked up at Li Xiao and asked, "Dad, can I stand up and talk? My son is still in there. It's not good to see him." When Li Xiao heard that, he was so angry that he laughed and almost kicked him. Li Xiqing quickly dodged and stood up from the ground. Su Qianxi was afraid that he would fall, so she quickly held him and called, "Dad." Seeing this, Li Xiao snorted, looked unhappy, but did not say anything. He went to the sofa and sat down. "I heard that the fire was very big that day. How did you escape?" He also heard that this guy seemed to be beaten half to death, so serious that he could not move. How did he escape later? This question, not only Li Xiao was curious, but even Captain Li, Luo Zhan, Su Qianxi, and the other 4 people had already stretched their necks, waiting for his explanation. Li Xiqing walked over and sat down in front of Li Xiao. Li Beixing, Li Jinnan, and Li Xiao sat together, while Su Qianxi and Li Xiqing sat on the sofa with Grandpa, facing each other. Luo Zhan sat on the sofa and made tea. Seeing that Li Xiqing was not whipped, he was a little disappointed. "I was saved by Tang Minjing." The first sentence shocked everyone, especially Su Qianxi, who held his hand and was shocked. Li Xiqing held her hand and said slowly, "She came back, and Bo Xiao followed her in and shot the policeman who was watching me. Then Bo Xiao and Tang Minjing carried me out. Rong Anna led the police away and went to pick them up. And I was thrown in the trunk. I was thrown in the trunk. Then they sent me to a small hospital. I was in a coma for a week and was lying in bed for more than half a year." Li Xiqing and Lian Xiao, Lu Sa and Qin Shuhua were busy in the kitchen. Qin Shuhua came out with fruit and happened to hear what Li Xiqing said. She was so distressed that she burst into tears. Putting the fruit on the table, Qin Shuhua sat next to Li Xiao, her eyes red. Su Qianxi was not much better than Qin Shuhua, holding Li Xiqing's hand tighter and tighter. Chapter 658. Jing Sa's real identity is a criminal police officer. She asked me if I would like to be undercover with her. I was injected with drugs by Tang Minjing and became addicted. You took drugs? Li Beixing looked shocked and stared at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing looked at Li Beixing and nodded. Su Qianxi subconsciously thought of the voice she heard that night. Li Xiqing's pain, Li Xiqing's roar, Li Xiqing's helplessness, so real. It turned out to be true. It was true. Holding his hand tightly, Su Qianxi's heart was torn. Jing Sa promised to help me get rid of drugs, but the condition was that I must help her wipe out the drug trafficking gang. I agreed, and then we spent half a year to get rid of drugs. Under the cover of Jing Sa, I trained with those criminal police officers, pretending to be imprisoned while collecting evidence of their crimes with the police. Although the words expressed were very simple, Luo Zhan's mind seemed to have imagined how thrilling that situation was. Shocked, he couldn't help but think, that's third brother. If it were him, he would definitely die there. Just last month, I tried to disclose information to her and let her help me reach a cooperation with TL. I succeeded. The time to defeat TL has been greatly shortened. Only by solving TL first can we go deep into the Bo group. Sure enough, as soon as TL fell, the Bo group couldn't help but start to transfer goods and clear their guilt. However, because of this, I was exposed. In the end, everyone was even more shocked. But fortunately, there was no danger. Now I'm back, right? Li Xiqing held Su Qianxi's hand tightly, his slightly rough hand gently stroking, his voice low and soft. It's okay, don't be afraid. Old Master Li immediately thought of the news he had seen this morning and said, The Bo group you are talking about, is it the Bo musical instrument? I heard they ran away. What should we do? Li Xiqing's eyes darkened, and he said, This is the disadvantage of being exposed. If we had another half a month or a month, we could have perfectly hidden and arrested all of them. This time, the operation was too hasty. We have already alerted the enemy, and the leader has run away. However, they can't protect themselves now, and they won't come back in a short time. More importantly, he had bought a line. As long as they couldn't bear it, and couldn't help but touch that line, the people he arranged could capture them at any time. There shouldn't be a problem with this thread. Li Xiqing's eyes were slightly deep, and he was still thinking. Qin Shuhua burst into tears, hit Li Xiao and scolded. Xiqing has suffered so much outside, and you still want to hit him. What kind of father are you? Li Xiao sighed and did not speak. Lu Sa was almost done in the kitchen. She didn't know what they were talking about outside. Seeing such a heavy atmosphere, she shouted, Let's eat. Call the children out for dinner. Then you won't go back in the future, will you? Li Xiao asked. Li Xiqing shook his head. No, I won't. Leave the rest to the police. It has nothing to do with me. That's good. Let's eat. Li Xiao stood up, and the family quickly went to the table. Su Qianxi took the children to the dining room, and Li Jinqian's little face was not very good. Chapter 659. Ursa wants to eat crab. Li Jinyue's sweet voice sounded, pointing to the big red crab on the table, smacking her lips and looking at Su Qianxi. Mom, I want to eat cakes. Su Qianxi smiled, took a crab and said, Let Dad open it for you, okay? Li Jianyue looked at the red crab, drooling, and immediately nodded. Su Qianxi gave her other dishes and said, Eat something first, and let Dad open it for you. Li Xiqing's lips curved slightly, and he directly opened the crab roe with his long fingers. He carefully removed the inedible parts of the crab roe and asked, Can Ursa dip it in vinegar? Yes. Ursa licked her mouth and looked at the red crab roe with desire. Li Xiqing took it in his hand and dipped it in vinegar. He deliberately teased her across Su Qianxi and said, What did you call me? Dad. Li Jianyue had no position or principles at all. She stared at the crab roe in his hand and shouted, Dad, I want to eat that. Li Xiqing was overjoyed and moved closer to her mouth. Li Jianyue directly opened her mouth and smiled happily. Su Qianxi scooped a spoonful of rice and sent it to her mouth. Li Jianyue also opened her mouth and kept chewing. Li Jianxian looked at this side while digging for rice. He looked at Luo Zhan enviously and shouted, Uncle Luo, I want it too. Luo Zhan ate and didn't even want to look at him. He said, Let your dad open it for you. Your dad is very good at opening crabs. Li Jianxian saw that he was unwilling, turned his head away unhappily, snorted, and went to catch a crab. But staring at the red crab, Li Jianxian was at a loss. Li Mosin looked at him in surprise and asked, Daesu, do you know how to open a crab? Li Jianxian felt provoked and said with a sullen face, Of course it's not a big deal. Uncle Lu taught me. It's very easy. With that, he took the crab and shrank his hand because of the heat. He slowly peeled the crab roe for her and said, Eat more. The crab in this season is especially delicious. Su Qianxi knew that he did it on purpose. Subconsciously glancing at Li Jianxian, she saw that his little face was wrinkled, and his eyes were a little red. He turned his head and glared at Li Xiqing. He simply put the crab on the table and stopped eating. If you don't want to eat, then don't eat. What's the big deal? Humph. Li Jianxian took the spoon and dug the meatballs not far in front of him to eat, but he was unwilling to call Li Xiqing dad. The adults looked at each other, and then at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing was eating slowly, his movements smooth and elegant. He did not look like he wanted to open a crab for the child at all. Su Qianxi nudged him and said, Daesu likes it too. Oh really? Li Xiqing looked at Li Jianxian and asked, Do you want to eat? I'll open it for you. Li Jianxian looked away with red eyes and said coldly, I don't want to. Oh then forget it. Li Xiqing didn't mind at all. He peeled a crab leg, dipped it in vinegar, and brought it to Ursu's mouth. Ursu happily opened her mouth and ate it, shouting happily, It's delicious. Thank you, Dad. The smile on Li Xiqing's face was rare, and he subconsciously glanced at Li Jianxian. Chapter 660. Li Xiqing chuckled and shook his head at her. Su Qianxi finally couldn't help it. She put the crab roe that Li Xiqing had just dug in her bowl into Li Jianxian's bowl and said, Daesu, eat some. It's delicious. Li Jianxian looked down, and was a little happy, but he did not eat it immediately. After picking up something else, he slowly ate it with the rice. Is it delicious? It's okay. I don't like it very much now. I only eat it because you gave it to me, Li Jianxian said deliberately without looking up. Su Qianxi couldn't help but laugh. Li Xiqing laughed and said, I was not so proud when I was a child. Li Jianxian blushed and glared at him unhappily. After finishing the rice in the bowl, he got off the stool and shouted, I'm full. After saying that, he scurried away. When Li Jianxian ran away, Su Qianxi was not happy. She reached out and pinched Li Xiqing's waist and said, That's your son. Who are you angry with? Childish. Li Xiqing touched his waist with some grievance and said, It is obvious that the boy is angry with me. Why don't you hit him? Why do you hit me? Su Qianxi glared at him, pushed him away, and turned back to eat. Li Jiannan saw them like this, smiled and bowed his head to eat. Finally back. The old Su Qianxi. After dinner, Su Qianxi asked Li Mosin to take Li Jianxian to play, and she went to the little guy's room. Li Jianxian did not turn on the light, and the light was very dim. The little guy was sitting in front of the stool drawing alone. Noticing that Su Qianxi came in, he immediately closed the album. Su Qianxi turned on the light, and saw the album under his hands. She gently closed the door and came over. What are you drawing? Su Qianxi's voice was soft. She walked to the little guy, half bent down, and glanced at the album he hid under his hands. Can you show it to Mom? Li Jianxian heard it, and was a little unhappy. He shook his head. This is my secret. Mom doesn't want to see it. She chuckled and rubbed his hair. Little things secrets. Mom, although I am still a child, I also have secrets. Li Jianxian pursed his lips unhappily and slapped her hand away. Our Daesu has grown up, and has his own little secrets, that he doesn't want his mother to know. She looked sad and sat down on the bed behind him. Don't you like Dad? I hate him. Li Jianxian was unhappy, very unhappy. Why? Why? Li Jianxian didn't know why, but he just didn't like it. He hated it. Why did he talk to Ursu instead of him? Why did he open the crabs for Ursu, but not for him? Li Jianxian felt it was unfair, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. A pair of tender little hands. Holding the album in his arms, Li Jianxian quietly pouted. Let Daddy take us to play tomorrow, okay? Where does Daesu want to go? Li Jianxian shook his head, feeling wronged and said, No, I don't want to go with him. I miss Uncle Lu. Mom, can you help me call Uncle Lou? Uncle Lou would not treat him like this. Uncle Lou was very good to him, unlike this person, who was not good to him at all. Chapter 661. Uncle Lou is very busy, and Uncle Lou is not as good as Dad. I think Uncle Lou is better than that person. Li Jianxian was about to cry, and his voice was choked. What's so great about him? Uncle Lou is much better than him. Li Jianxian had been sensible for a long time, and he had not cried for a long time. Now his expression, although he did not cry, was more distressing than if he had cried directly. Su Qianxi reached out and pulled him over, coaxing him as before, hugging him and whispering, "Don't cry, Daisu is a boy." Li Jianxian felt even more wronged, holding his mother's shoulder with one hand, sobbing but not crying out. Dad likes you very much, but Daisu doesn't seem to like Dad very much. If Daisu sees a person who doesn't like you very much, will you still play with him? No way. Su Qianxi whispered. This is the same reason. No one wants to play with someone who doesn't like them. I don't want to play with him. I just hate him. Li Jianxian buried in his mother's arms and denied. I don't want to play with him. He is your father. Haven't you always been envious of other children who have a father to lift them up? Let's find a father to lift us up, okay? That's Ursu. I am not envious. So childish. Li Jianxian wiped his tears and snorted. As soon as Li Jianxian's voice fell, he heard crisp laughter coming from outside. Li Jinyue's lively and happy laughter sounded very attractive. Soon, the door of the room was opened, and the laughter was even louder. Li Xiqing came in, and a little girl was sitting on his neck, laughing constantly. Li Jianyue held Li Xiqing's head, her little hand on his forehead, and Li Xiqing's big hand was holding the little girl's waist, walking in. Li Jianyue looked very happy and shouted, "Brother, brother, raise up. It's so fun." The bell-like laughter was refreshing, and Su Qianxi felt warm when she heard it. Li Jianxian saw this scene, and he felt even more unhappy. The tears of grievance that he had tried so hard to hold back suddenly became hot again. However, he was a man, and he could not cry. But, looking at his sister riding on the man's neck, Dace's heart was indescribably uncomfortable. How nice poo-poo-poo. He didn't care. What's so great about it? Turning his head away, Li Jianxian ran to his small bed and said, "You're so noisy. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep. If you want to play, get out." "Ah!" Li Jianyue screamed, followed by a cheerful laugh. Her two pigtails waved in the air as she supported herself with her fair and chubby hands. "Big brother, come and play with us. Daddy is so tall." Li Jianxian breathed quickly, and felt like he was about to cry. He covered his head with the quilt and shouted, "You're so annoying. Why are you playing here? Go out and don't disturb me." Li Mosin ran in from outside, holding a large piece of the puzzle in his hand. He shouted happily, "Uncle, uncle, look, I've put it together." "Wow." Li Jianyue looked at him in surprise. "Brother Mosin is too amazing. My brother has been trying for a few days, but he still can't finish it." Chapter 662. Dad is the best. Li Jianyue held Li Xiqing's head, feeling a little proud. But when she saw her brother curled up in the quilt, she said, "Dad, I want to go down." Li Xiqing looked up at her and said, "Okay, get ready, I'm going to throw you away." Then he threw the little fellow, scaring Li Jianyue and making her scream. The big hand rolled her up and quickly held her in his arms. Li Jianyue laughed loudly, and there was a layer of sweat on her body, which was a little steaming. Li Xiqing touched her body and said, "Let Mom take you to take a bath." "I want to take a bath with Dad." "Mom too, let's take a bath together." Li Jianyue was a little excited, holding Li Xiqing's arm. "Dad, okay." Li Xiqing's eyes were a little smile, and his lips were raised. He picked her up, pinched her little face, looked at her lovingly and said, "No, there is a difference between men and women. We can't take a bath together. Dad and brothers will take a bath together. And you and Mom will take a bath together, okay?" Li Jianyue pouted unhappily and said, "Okay." Li Xiqing rubbed her little face, turned his face and said, "Kiss Dad." "Mua." Li Jianyue hugged Li Xiqing's neck and kissed his face. Li Xiqing was overjoyed, and pointed to the other side of his face. This side. Mua. Li Jianyue kissed both sides and said with a smile. Mom kiss. Su Qianxi held the little fellow in her arms, and Li Jianyue kissed both of Su Qianxi's cheeks. Li Xiqing looked at his daughter and wife, and his heart seemed to melt. He reached out and hugged them, looking at Li Jianxian, who was wrapped up in a ball on the small bed in the corner. Su Qianxi lowered her head and whispered to Li Jianyue, Go, wake up brother to take a bath. Li Jianyue immediately got off Su Qianxi, went over and pulled the quilt of Li Jianxian, and shouted, Brother, take a bath. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep. Li Jianxian covered himself with the quilt. His voice was muffled and sounded a little nasal. When Li Jianyue heard that, she pouted and exposed him mercilessly. Brother is lying. I can't fall asleep at this time. You'll only fall asleep if you play games with Brother Mosin. Li Jianxian covered his head and was unwilling to get up. Li Xiqing strode forward and lifted the quilt off Li Jianxian's head. As soon as he lifted it up, a gust of hot air immediately surged up. Only then did he realize that the little fellow was already drenched in sweat. It was very hot. Li Xiqing threw the quilt away in disgust and lifted Li Xiqing up by his collar. Li Jianxian was lifted like a chicken, and his whole body was suspended in the air. Immediately, he felt that his dignity was being challenged. His hands and feet flailed as he shouted, Let me go! Let me go, you bad man! Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes, exuding a dangerous aura. Looking at the little guy, he asked, What did you call me? Although Li Jianxian was young, he was also extremely sensitive to the emotions of people around him. At this moment, seeing Li Xiqing like this, he knew that he was very likely to be unhappy. His heart skipped a beat, and Li Jianxian was a little scared. But soon, not to be outdone, he shouted, Bad man! Let me go, why are you grabbing me? I hate you. Chapter 663. Li Mosin blinked and silently watched from the side. Li Xiqing saw him like this, put his big hand on his head and said, Let's go take a bath. The little guy heard the words, was a little surprised and quickly followed. The little heart was pounding, and Li Mosin's mood was actually a little excited. As if he was also his father. Li Jianxian struggled all the way and shouted, Let me go, let me go! You bad man, I don't want to take a bath with you. Li Xiqing was unhappy, lifted him up and spanked him twice. Bad boy, don't you need to take a bath? It's none of your business. I want Uncle Lu. You are not good to me. Only Uncle Lu is good to me. I don't want you to be my father. Li Jianxian shouted, and what he said made the originally kind atmosphere around Li Xiqing immediately cold. Li Xiqing stopped, and Su Qianxi saw this and was shocked. Honey, you. But before Su Qianxi's words were finished, Li Xiqing had already opened the bathroom door, pushed Li Mosin in, and immediately locked the door. Su Qianxi was shocked. This guy, is he going to close the door and beat the child? Li Xiqing did not like Lu Yihan, and Su Qianxi knew this. This boy undoubtedly touched Li Xiqing's bad luck. What should she do? Su Qianxi went to knock on the door, and Li Xiqing's voice quickly came from inside. He said, I will give them a bath. You take Ursa to take a bath. But how could Su Qianxi rest assured? Su Qianxi had never beaten Desu before. Although this little guy was young, his mind was much more mature than children of the same age. His self-esteem was also very strong. If he was beaten by Li Xiqing, could he forgive Li Xiqing in the future? Could he? No way. Standing at the door for a while, Su Qianxi made sure that she did not hear any bad sounds before she took Ursu to her room and gave her a bath. Li Jianxian was put down. His little face was angry, and his eyes were red, but the tears refused to fall. He looked at Li Xiqing, as if he was looking at a criminal who had committed a heinous crime. Li Xiqing released the water. When he turned around, Li Mosin had already taken off his clothes. He urged, Desu, quickly take off your clothes. Let's take a bath together. Li Jianxian snorted and turned around. Li Xiqing turned the water on and said to Li Mosin with disdain, Ignore him. This guy wants to go out and bathe with girls. He's not a man. You're the one who wants to bathe with a girl. You're not a man. Li Jianxian shouted angrily. Li Xiqing began to unbutton his shirt. The expression on his face was still disdainful as he said, Isn't it? You must want to bathe with your mother and sister because you are no longer a boy, so you don't want to bathe with us. Mosen, let's despise him together. When Li Mosen heard that, he stuck his tongue out at Li Jianxian. I despise you. Li Jianxian's face became redder and he shouted. Who said I don't want to take a bath with you? So you miss me? Li Xiqing looked at him with a faint smile. No one showers with clothes on. Are you shy? As he spoke, he had already taken off his pants. Chapter 664. Li Xiqing tested the temperature of the water and took Li Mosen in. Li Mosen cheered. It's so comfortable. Daisu, come in. Li Jianxian took off his underwear. Just as he was about to walk in, his body was suddenly picked up by a big hand. The little guy only felt a burst of comfort in his heart, and his little face was inexplicably red. Then, the whole person had already fallen into the water. Li Xiqing also took off his clothes and stepped in. Li Mosen smiled happily inside, and his blue eyes looked as beautiful as sapphires through the mist. Li Jianxian squatted in the big bathtub, and there was a special feeling in his heart. He was taking a bath with an adult. He was really taking a bath with his father. Li Jianxian blinked, and heard Li Mosen exclaim, saying, Uncle's feet are so hairy. Hey, there is hair here, there is hair here, there is hair here. Li Mosen's reaction was as if he had discovered a new continent, and his face was full of surprise. Li Jianxian couldn't help but look in the direction pointed by Li Mosen, and finally saw the mighty domineering of an adult man, and couldn't help but clamp his legs. So disgusting. Li Jianxian blushed, hugged his knees, and let the water cover his chin. You don't know how to take a bath yourself? Li Xiqing looked at the two little guys, and took the jar next to him. Bubble bath, what the hell? Li Xiqing threw the thing back, took a soap, and waved to Li Jianxian. Come here. Li Jianxian snorted, turned his head, and ignored him. Li Xiqing chuckled. Who did this kid's temper resemble? It was so strange and weird, like a fried dough twist. Seeing that he ignored him, Li Xiqing waved to Li Mosen. Li Mosen half swam, and half crawled over, and soon sat in front of Li Xiqing. It was also the first time that Li Xiqing bathed a child. He applied the soap to him, and then realized that he needed to wash his hair. He picked up the shower head to wash the little guy's hair, and then rubbed his body. It was the first time that Li Mosen was bathed by a man, especially by such a father-like figure, and he was both happy and excited. Looking at Li Jianxian sitting on the side with an unhappy face, Li Mosen expressed that he did not understand what this guy wanted to do. If it was his father, he would definitely ask his father to take him out to play. Li Xiqing patiently bathed him, put him aside, and waved at Li Jianxian. Come here. Li Jianxian was unwilling, and continued to sit in the water. Without hesitation, Li Xiqing pulled Li Xiqing over and rubbed his hair and bathed him the same way. It was just that his movements were clearly more practiced and gentler. God knew that this was the first time Li Xiqing had served a child, but he was so patient. Even he found it incredible. After changing the water several times and cleaning the two children, he suddenly realized that he hadn't brought any clothes with him. Wrapping a towel around his waist, he carried the two children out, one in each hand. Li Mosen's eyes were shining, and Li Jianxian was also a little stunned. That was amazing. She was hugging both him and Mosen at the same time. Li Jianxian blinked and looked up at Li Xiqing's face, which was very similar to his own. Chapter 665. After searching for a long time, Li Xiqing found two sets of cartoon pajamas for boys, a set of blue Ultraman, and a set of gray checkered pajamas. Li Xiqing threw the Ultraman to Li Mosen, and the checkered pajamas to Li Jianxian. He said, wear them yourself. A man must learn to be self-reliant. Li Mosen nodded with excitement, and looked at Li Xiqing with admiration. He said, Uncle, you are so amazing. How do you know that this is mine, and that is Dace's? Li Xiqing did not answer, but helped him unbutton and chuckled. Do you want to know? Li Mosen nodded and looked at him with stars in his eyes. Li Jianxian also looked at him. In his eyes that were the same as Li Xiqing's, his dark pupils were shining brightly. Li Xiqing glanced at Li Jianxian and asked, do you want to know too? Li Jianxian met his gaze and blushed. He said, I don't really want to know. With a chuckle, Li Xiqing said, because Daesu is my son. Li Mosen heard it and felt amazing. He nodded as if he understood. Li Jianqian was stunned, and the wonderful feeling in his heart rose. Because he was his son, he knew that the clothes were his? Li Jianqian did not quite understand what this sentence meant. Before he could figure it out, Li Xiqing had already stood up and said, I'm going back. You two get dressed and play by yourself. Go to bed early. Okay, uncle. Bye. Li Jianqian did not speak. Li Xiqing glanced at Li Jianqian and touched Li Mosen's head. See you tomorrow. Yeah. But when Li Xiqing walked to the door, Li Jianqian said, You haven't put on your clothes yet. Are my clothes here? Li Xiqing only asked one sentence, then opened the door and walked out. Li Jianqian blushed, and he was a little excited. This kind of excitement came inexplicably, but Li Jianqian's mood that had not been very happy today suddenly became better. Li Xiqing walked back to the room wearing only a bath towel. When he opened the door, Su Qianxi was shocked. She hurriedly pulled him in and took a look outside. Fortunately, there were no guests. This fellow was too audacious. Su Qianxi turned around and closed the door. However, before she turned around, a hot body hugged her from behind. It was so strong that she was caught off guard and let out a yelp. He turned her around and pressed her against the wall. Lowering his head, he kissed her lips, his big hands roaming all over her body. She struggled a bit, but did not even get rid of his lips. Pushing him away, she looked inside. Li Xiqing did not notice her strangeness. His big hand slid down her thigh, onto her butt and moved upward. She pushed him hard and even used her knees, but he was getting stronger and stronger. There was no room for her to struggle. Mommy, I can't pull it up. A tender voice came from inside, with an aggrieved crying tone. Li Xiqing suddenly opened his eyes and let her go. Su Qianxi gasped, blushed, and pushed him away, saying, What's the hurry? The little guy ran out holding his nightdress, his little face blushing, and ran toward her with his short legs. The original channel is on QQ Reading. Those who read pirated versions and come to scold me, please have some self-respect. Everyone, please support the original version. Chapter 666. The little fellow ran out of the room, tugging at his nightgown. His face was flushed, and he ran towards her with his short legs. Li Xiqing immediately went into the bathroom, not far from the door, and closed the door. Seeing the clothes Li Jianyue was wearing, Su Qianxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The little girl's head and one hand were through the neckline, and the other sleeve had been put on. The little hand was holding the clothes under the armpit, looking at Su Qianxi with a pair of wet eyes. Li Jianyue did not notice that another man had just appeared here. She pouted and said, The clothes are so hard to wear. Su Qianxi squatted down and pulled her hand up, gently blocking the neckline with her hand to prevent the clothes from rubbing the child's skin. She whispered, Come on, reach up, yes, shrink in. Guiding the child to untie the clothes, Su Qianxi put them on again. After fiddling with them, she scratched her little nose and picked her up. Mom will take you back to sleep. Oh, Li Jianyue put on her clothes, but she was still a little depressed. She pouted and said, Where is Dad? Dad is in the bathroom. Ursa, be good. Go back to sleep. Let Dad take us to play tomorrow, okay? Okay. Li Jianyue finally recovered, and let Su Qianxi take her back to her room. Li Jianqian and Li Mosen were sitting on the ground playing a puzzle. The puzzle was on the bed. Su Qianxi put Li Jianyue on the bed that they used as a table, and the little girl immediately looked around happily. Su Qianxi looked at the time. It was already 20:39 in the evening. She sat on the bed next to them for a while and stayed there until 9 o'clock. She confiscated their puzzle, put it on the high counter, and warned, Go to sleep. Get up early tomorrow morning and play together. Okay. Li Jianyue cheered. Where to play? Let Dad take us there, okay? So go to sleep now and get up at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Do you hear me? Okay. Li Mosen also responded. Li Jianqian did not speak, but a pair of dark and clear eyes were full of hope. Su Qianxi's heart softened slightly and turned off the light. Good night. Good night, Mom. Good night, Auntie. Good night. She closed the door, and suddenly, her heart was beating fast. Time to go back to my room. Thinking of his enthusiasm, she couldn't help blushing. He walked to the door and took 2 deep breaths. After gathering his emotions, he gently turned the doorknob and opened the door. It was dark inside, and the air conditioner was on. She closed the door, locked it, and walked in. It was pitch black inside, and even the curtains were drawn. One couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. She took off her shoes, climbed into bed, and whispered, "Honey." His voice was very soft, as if he was a thief. There was no response. When she just sat on the bed, she was suddenly pushed down by a strong force. A pair of big hands were messing around her waist. She laughed and said, "Stop scratching him." Her mouth was sealed, and she felt that even her breath was taken away. His kiss, hot, wild, explosive, and undisguised passion. It had been 4 years. Chapter 667. Li Xiqing bent down and picked up his daughter. He glanced at Captain Li and said, "Don't think so much when you're old. It's not good for your health." Captain Li's face turned even redder. He glared at him and said, "Brat, I'm your grandfather. If you weren't my grandfather, I wouldn't care about you. Right, Ursu?" Li Xiqing's expression softened as he looked at his daughter. He looked at the little one's sportswear and said, "Let's go. Daddy will take you for a run." Li Jianxian and Li Mosin were playing with the car. When they saw their sister being picked up by their father, there was a trace of envy in their clear eyes. Hearing Li Xiqing's words, their hearts beat faster. They were a little nervous and a little expectant. Blushing, Li Jianxian quickly lowered his head and continued to play with the car in his hand. Wow! Wow! Li Jianyue was a little excited. Her white and tender face was pink. She grabbed Li Xiqing's collar excitedly and looked down at Li Jianxian. "Brother, Daddy will take us for a run." Li Mosin also raised his head, and his eyes were bright. Li Xiqing saw Li Mosin like this, and his eyes softened. He went forward and touched Li Mosin's head. "Let's go together." "Yeah." Li Mosin stood up happily and reached out to drag Li Jianxian. "Daisu, let's go for a run." Li Jianxian pouted and said unhappily, "He didn't ask me." Li Xiqing heard that and couldn't help but laugh. He pulled his little arm up and rubbed his little face. He said, "Why are you so awkward? Who do you take after?" Captain Li was silently drinking tea. When he heard this, he said, "Weren't you like this when you were a child? You acted like the whole world owed you. Now you know how to talk about your son." "I wasn't so awkward when I was a child. This kid must have a genetic mutation." Captain Li glanced at him and said, "You and your father are exactly the same. Even if you don't look at the face, your temperament is almost the same. I can tell at a glance that you are biological." Li Jianxian heard these words from the old man, and his little face became even redder. He looked up at the tall man in front of him. A pair of clean and clear eyes were filled with a sparkling unknown light. Seeing his expression, Li Xiqing chuckled and said, "Of course, he is my biological son." As he spoke, he put Li Jianyue down and stuffed her little hand into Li Mosin's. "Bring your sister and follow me." Li Mosin nodded and looked at Li Xiqing with admiration. Immediately, Li Xiqing's gaze fell on Li Jianxian. Li Jianxian subconsciously took a step back. But then he saw Li Xiqing reach out to him, lift him up and exclaim, "Let's go." Li Xiqing said, "Let's go." Li Jianxian was shocked and shouted, "What are you doing? Let me down." "To carry you." Li Xiqing carried Li Jianxian out of the door and swung him in his hand. The little fellow was so frightened that his little heart was thumping wildly. But when he looked down, he had an extremely wonderful feeling. Daddy was hugging him. "Mosin, bring your sister and follow me." "Okay." Li Mosin held Li Jianyue's hand and quickly jogged to catch up. Chapter 668. So scary, so high. Li Jianxian looked at the ground, a little scared, but felt the big hand next to him holding him. The little guy couldn't help but get excited. So high, so high. Yesterday, his sister was lifted high, and now it was his turn. It was really fun. Li Jianxian's little face was red with excitement. Looking down, he was a little excited, and his little hands unconsciously held his father's head and looked back. Li Mosin held Li Jianyue's hand and looked envious. Both of them ran with short legs to catch up. This man was just walking, and they couldn't even catch up with him by running. With this awareness, Li Jianxian suddenly felt that this man was so powerful. He was a man. This man was his father, and it was a great feeling. Li Jianxian smiled happily and shouted behind, "Mosin, catch up." Feeling that the little guy was happy, Li Xiqing smiled and said, "Hold on tight, I'm going to rush." With that, Li Xiqing held him with both hands and suddenly ran. The speed was very fast, and Li Jianxian felt so excited that he was about to fly. He couldn't help but scream, "Ah!" The wind poured into his mouth, and Li Jianxian heard the echo. His little face involuntarily burst into a happy smile, and the laughter was crisp. Li Xiqing was in a better mood. He turned a corner and ran back in the direction of the two little guys. Suddenly, Li Jianxian felt his body was light, and he screamed in fear. But then his body was firmly held by a pair of strong arms. Li Jianxian was scared and opened his eyes wide, but the feeling of excitement and happiness was even more memorable. So fun. So exciting. Is it fun? Li Xiqing looked down at him, a pair of dark and deep eyes, with a little smile, looking at him, eyes slightly curved, like a sky full of stars bright and bright. What beautiful eyes! Li Jianxian looked at this pair of eyes, and his cheeks were hot. He couldn't hide his smile and nodded. Fun. Then Dad will take you to play often in the future. Dad. Li Jianxian nodded and raised his arms excitedly. I still want to play. Let's go. Li Xiqing lifted him up again, and Li Jianxian laughed happily. Li Jianyue and Li Mosin followed behind. The little girl pouted and looked unhappy. Daddy is bad. Why didn't you lift me up? Li Mosin looked on enviously from behind. He held Li Jianyue's hand and comforted her. I'll hug you later. Really? Really, I like Ursa the most. Li Jianyue was elated. She tugged on her pants and shook off Li Mosin's hand. She ran forward with her short legs and shouted, Daddy, I want to be raised high. Li Mosin quickly followed and shouted, Ursa, be careful. The old man walked out of the front yard with his walking stick. Seeing this scene, he laughed happily and turned to Lu Sa, who was busy, and said, That's more like a family. Qianqian has suffered all these years. Lu Sa also smiled. Isn't it? Now that the second young master is back, the children are happy, and the second young mistress is also happy. While talking, she looked at the clock hanging in the living room, smiled, and whispered to the old man, You haven't gotten up yet. You must be tired. When the old man heard Lu Sa's words, he coughed lightly and walked inside with his walking stick. He said faintly, Don't think so much when you are old. It's not good for your health. Chapter 669. When Su Qianxi woke up, it was already cold. Looking at the time, it was already past 8 a.m. Seeing the time on the alarm clock, Su Qianxi suddenly got up, but when she moved, she felt very sore. Asshole! Su Qianxi held her waist and got out of bed. Looking down, her neck and collarbone were covered with purple spots. It was not deep, but it still looked a bit scary. Su Qianxi had a headache. Wrapping herself in a shirt, she went into the bathroom. Especially after seeing the mess on her body, she wailed, Asshole! How can I face people like this? In the summer, she couldn't wear a high-collared shirt, could she? Or a silk scarf? No, this is way too crazy. And it's way too obvious, alright. After taking a shower and applying hot water, it seemed to have faded. Su Qianxi picked up her concealer and applied a few layers. After making sure it was better, she wrapped herself in a bathrobe and walked out. Her hair was wet. Su Qianxi wiped her hair and walked out. When she was drying her hair, the door was knocked, and Li Jianyue's lively and childish voice came shouting, Mom, Mom, get up. Soon the door was opened, and Li Jianyue ran in, wearing pink sportswear and pink sneakers. She rushed to Su Qianxi and pulled the hem of her bathrobe. She shouted, Mom, go out to play. Dad said he would take us out to play. Hurry up. Su Qianxi was drying her hair, wearing nothing under the thin bathrobe. She quickly pulled the clothes back and coaxed, Ursu, Mom will be ready soon. Go outside and wait for me. Oh, Li Jianyue pouted, looked at her mother with a pair of big watery eyes, and said with some grievance, Dad didn't lift me up, sob. Su Qianxi laughed and gently pushed her. Later, let Dad carry you. Go out first and help Mom close the door. Okay. Li Jianyue ran out with her short legs, grabbed the door handle on her tiptoes, and slowly walked out. Just before she closed the door, there was a tall shadow behind her. Turning around, Li Jianyue shouted, Dad. Li Xiqing took her little hand down and said, Go help Lu Sa pack things with your brothers. Dad will take you to a picnic later. Picnic? Li Jianyue's eyes lit up. She nodded and skipped away excitedly. Li Xiqing straightened up and looked at his daughter's back. His smile deepened. Opening the door again, she had just finished drying her hair and put down the hairdryer. Untying the strap of her bathrobe, she was startled to hear the door open. When she saw that it was him, she heaved a sigh of relief. Lock the door. I'll change my clothes. Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. He locked the door and walked in slowly. Su Qianxi went to the walk-in closet and opened the closet. Before she picked out the right clothes, Li Xiqing hugged her waist. He squeezed her neck, buried his face in her neck, and whispered, Take the children to the beach for a picnic. Wear a long dress. Su Qianxi blushed, twisted her shoulders and said, Then let go of me first. I'll change. Not only did he not let go, but he became even more aggressive. His big hands climbed up her waist, and his lips came up to kiss the corner of her lips. Chapter 670. He did not feel the slightest sense of crisis. Chuckling, he whispered, Come on, hit me. She threw a punch at him, but in the blink of an eye, her hand was caught by him. Twisting her hand, she was pinned against the cabinet door by Li Xiqing. He looked down and sniffed her neck. Feeling a layer of concealer, he couldn't help chuckling. Su Qianxi blushed even more. Pushing him hard, she kicked him and said, Stop laughing. It's all because of you. His dark eyes became deeper. He put his big hand on the side of her face and kissed her. His knee was between her legs, and his other big hand was around her waist, not willing to let go. Su Qianxi's dark eyes flashed with fear. Pushing him away, she shook her head in resistance. Li Xiqing smiled and bit her lips. Change. Su Qianxi blushed and pushed him away. Turning around, she found a light green floral dress. Standing on tiptoe, she felt for underwear on the top shelf. However, before she found it, a big hand grabbed it for her and asked, Looking for this? Su Qianxi grabbed it and pushed him. Go away. I'm changing. I'm not leaving. Which part of your body have I not seen? Putting his big hand against her, he raised an eyebrow and teased. Not only seen, but also kissed and touched. What's there to be embarrassed about? Su Qianxi heard this and felt even more embarrassed. She pushed her away angrily and went to the washroom to change her clothes while holding her clothes in her hands. Watching her go into the bathroom, Li Xiqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He took out a pair of flat sandals of the same color from the shoe cabinet and put them on the ground. Looking down, he found that all his clothes and shoes were still there. It was spring when he disappeared, and most of his clothes were long-sleeved. It could be seen that they were well-maintained. The clothes still looked brand new. Most of them were business suits and shirts, and the ties were neatly arranged. Feeling warm, Li Xiqing's eyes became softer. Looking back, Su Qianxi had already put on her clothes and walked out. The sleeveless ankle-length dress made her look more gentle. Her long hair was past her waist and casually parted in the middle, making her look even more beautiful. Seeing the shoes on the ground, she quickly put them on and said, Let's go. Yes. The couple went out together. When Lu Sa saw them, she was very considerate and didn't ask or look at them. Li Jianxian, Li Jianyue, and Li Mosen were all carrying small school bags and sitting on the sofa in the living room. Each of them was holding a lollipop. Li Jianyue's was the biggest lollipop. When she saw them come out, she licked the candy and happily got down from the sofa. She ran over with her short legs and shouted, Mom, Dad, can we go now? Li Xiqing picked up the little girl, wiped the sticky corners of her mouth, and whispered, Let's wait for Mommy to finish breakfast. Mommy will be hungry if she doesn't eat breakfast. The little fellow blinked and urged, Mommy, hurry up and eat breakfast. No, we'll eat when we get there. Su Qianxi walked over and took Li Mosin and Li Jianxian. Let's go. Lu Sa considerately gave Su Qianxi a yogurt. Then let's eat together later. Su Qianxi took it and thanked her. She looked at the children. Let's go for a picnic. Chapter 671. He led the children into the car, and the three children naturally sat in the back seat of the car. Su Qianxi sat in the front passenger seat, and Li Xiqing drove. Su Qianxi opened the yogurt, and Li Jianyue looked at the back and shouted, "Mom, I want it." Su Qianxi had just taken a sip, and when she heard Ursa say so, she handed the yogurt to the back. But before she handed it over, Li Xiqing grabbed her hand and pulled it back. He said seriously, "Ursu, Mom didn't eat breakfast. You can't take it from Mom. Mom will feel uncomfortable when she is hungry." "Oh," Li Jianyue responded, looking in the rearview mirror, licking the lollipop in her hand, looked at the candy, and handed it over. "Mom, do you want candy?" Su Qianxi chuckled and shook her head. "No, Ursu can eat it yourself." Li Jianxian and Li Mosin were holding a model in their hands. The two little guys were facing each other and disassembling it. They didn't even care about eating the candy in their hands. The sea in Kingstown was on the edge of the suburbs. Li Xiqing drove for more than an hour before reaching the destination. This was the only sea in Kingstown, and the flow of people was particularly large. However, because it was a tourist attraction under the jurisdiction of state-owned enterprises, it was also divided into VIP areas and ordinary areas. There were obviously fewer people in the VIP area, and it was much cleaner. Today's sun was not very bright, and the weather was a little cloudy, but it was still hot around. The sea breeze was salty, mixed with the cool water vapor, and it was so comfortable that the little guys were a little excited. As soon as they walked in, the two boys threw all the models into their small school bags, and then gave all the small school bags to Su Qianxi, and ran toward the water excitedly. Li Jianyue couldn't catch up with the two brothers. Squatting behind, she pouted and shouted, "Mom, the brothers won't play with me." "Get up, Mom will play with you." Su Qianxi took Li Jianyue's hand and looked at the two children excitedly, wanting to get close to the water, but not daring to get close. She smiled and shouted, "Mosin, Desu, take off your shoes first. Don't get them wet." "Okay." Li Mosin listened, took off his shoes, and put them aside neatly. Li Jianxian followed suit. He put his aqua blue shoes next to Li Mosin's yellow shoes, and ran barefoot toward the water. The sea rose and fell. Li Jianxian and Li Mosin laughed and ran after the sea. But as soon as the sea rose, they immediately screamed and ran to the side. When Li Jianyue saw that, she was also eager to try. She broke free from Su Qianxi's hand and ran over there. She took off the pink shoes on her feet and ran after her brother, shouting, "Brother!" Li Jianxian played by himself and ignored her. Li Jianyue pouted her lips and started running as well. Chased by the seawater, she ran at the same time as her brothers, but she ran slower than them. Her little feet were wet in an instant. Li Jianxian laughed unceremoniously. "Ursu, you idiot, you're too slow." Li Jianyue was unhappy. She ran towards Li Mosin and shouted, "Brother Mosin, take me out and play with me. I'm going to ignore Big Brother." Li Mosin ran towards Li Jianyue with a smile, took her hand and shouted, "I don't play with Desu." The two little guys held hands and ran up and down the beach, chasing the waves, screaming and running away. Li Jianxian was unhappy. He ran over and took Li Jianyue's other hand and said, "The three of us will run faster." Chapter 672. Seeing that the children did not look back, she put her hand on his and said, "The year before last." She paused and looked up at his face. "You don't like him?" Mosin is actually a good kid, not like Tang Minjing at all. Neither her appearance, nor her temperament was like Tang Minjing. Children needed to be taught. Heredity was not a big factor. Su Qianxi always believed that people were born kind. It turned out that Su Qianxi had taught Li Mosin well. When he was first picked up from the orphanage, he was very shy and introverted. He didn't dare to go out to play and always stayed alone. At that time, the two little guys, Desu and Ursu, were just learning how to speak and calling him brother. Playing with the two little guys, Li Mosin became more and more cheerful. His temper became more and more lively, and he was also very smart. Holding her in his arms, he chuckled. This child is really good. She is well-behaved and sensible. It's all thanks to your good teaching. Tang Minjing is hateful, but the child is innocent. Su Qianxi looked at him. When the director of the orphanage called me, I was working overtime in the company. At that time, Mosen had a fever for several days. The director took him to the doctor, and the doctor said it was the flu. At that time, the orphanage was short of funds, and many children were infected, but Mosen was the most serious. The director hoped that I could help those children. After Mosen recovered from his illness, he became a little dependent on me. So I simply adopted him and registered him under our household register. Reaching out to touch his hand, she looked up at him and said, I knew you would come back. When I proposed to adopt him, you did not agree. I was afraid that you could not accept it, so I asked him to call me auntie instead of mom. Hearing that, Li Xiqing deliberately kept a straight face and said, Silly girl, this is called acting first and reporting later. At that time there was nowhere to play, and you didn't come back. This child was too pitiful. At that time, apart from me, he didn't listen to anyone. He didn't want to eat, and he didn't want to play with other children, so It's okay. Teach him well. Don't let him grow up to be an ingrate. Li Xiqing let go of her and whispered, I'm going to prepare something. There's a barbecue grill over there. You can bring the child to barbecue later. All right, go ahead. Reluctantly, he kissed her neck and walked toward the barbecue grill. Su Qianxi looked around and blushed. Then she took off her shoes and walked toward the children. Li Mosen brought Li Jianyue there to pile up the sand. Li Jianyue used the stick left after eating the lollipop to poke at the sand. After digging up the sand, Li Mosen patted the sand, while Li Jianxian picked up shells at the side and kept putting them into Li Jianyue's pile of sand. Ah, crab! Li Jianxian shouted, holding a small thing the size of a finger in his hand. He shouted excitedly, Mosen, Ursa, look, there are crabs! Alive! After saying that, he ran over barefoot and threw the live crab into the middle of the pile of shells. Li Mosen watched from the side. He reached out to pinch the little thing and brought it to Li Jianyue. Chapter 673. Idiot! Such a small crab must have no meat to eat. Li Jianxian stared at the little crab and laughed at Li Jianyue mercilessly. The little guy's little face puffed up and shouted, You are the idiot! I am not, you are. I am not, Desu is. Ursu is. Desu is. The two children were bickering with each other. Li Mosen was playing with the little crab. He suddenly threw the crab in front of Li Jianyue, scaring the little guy and making her scream. She immediately forgot to bicker with Li Jianxian and excitedly snatched the little crab from Li Mosen. Honey, come here! Li Xiqing shouted from a distance. Su Qianxi heard and waved back. She turned around and asked the children to throw the crab away. She led the three children to put on their little shoes and walked toward the barbecue grill where Li Xiqing was. Because it was Tuesday, there were not many people in the VIP area. There were other people barbecuing with their children on the barbecue grill next to them. But most of them were young couples. Seeing Su Qianxi, most of them had already recognized her. They couldn't help but look in the direction of Li Xiqing. After seeing Li Xiqing clearly, they all suddenly realized. Li Xiqing chose the one on the edge, farthest from the crowd, the cleanest, the largest, and the best equipped place. A transparent glass barrier separated this unique place. Opening the door, Su Qianxi found that the air conditioner was still on inside. The children went there and sat down. Su Qianxi took out the snacks and lunch that she had brought and put them on the table. The children ate the snacks and watched Li Xiqing's elegant and slow barbecue. A small range hood on the top sucked away the smoke, and the coal on the barbecue grill was burning red. Dad is so awesome! Li Jianyue yelled happily while eating the snacks. Dad, I want to eat meat. Okay. Li Xiqing was barbecuing and adding seasoning. A pair of deep eyes were slightly curved. Through the barbecue grill, it looked even more eye-catching. Su Qianxi was slightly absent-minded. Li Xiqing curled his lips and whispered, Don't look at me. I can't help it, Mrs. Li. Su Qianxi blushed and glared at him. She whispered, The baby is still here. Don't teach him bad things. Hearing her words, he looked up at her innocently and asked, "Did I say something I shouldn't have?" Su Qianxi paused, thought about it, and was speechless. Her face turned even redder. She lowered her head and stopped talking, focusing on the bag of chips. The smile on Li Xiqing's face widened. He handed the sausage to Su Qianxi and said, "Be careful, it's hot." Su Qianxi took it, put a clean paper plate on it, cut it into small pieces, and gave it to the children. "Be careful, it's hot." No one noticed that the harmonious scene inside had already been captured by someone. After Li Xiqing was busy, the children were all full, and even Su Qianxi ate a bit too much. The family of 5 took a walk by the beach to digest their food. The 3 children ran around happily. Li Jianyue ran to find the little crab, but found that the little crab had already run away. The little guy touched the water with his bare feet, and from time to time, he took out some small shells and played with them. Chapter 674. Li Xiqing and Su Qianxi sat on the edge of the beach, watching the children step on each other's shadows, chasing each other and laughing. The lively and happy laughter reached everyone's ears, and their mood became peaceful. The sun was setting, and the white clouds were dyed orange-red, so beautiful that it made people lose their minds. Su Qianxi looked at the top, where there were a few small clouds floating slowly, and suddenly became 5 human figures, 2 big and 3 small, one of which had 2 small braids. Su Qianxi excitedly patted the person next to her, pointed up, and said, "Look, don't they look like us?" Li Xiqing held her waist with one hand, and looked at the place she was pointing. His eyes softened and he chuckled. "Yes, even God made a family portrait for us." "Yes, a family portrait. Hurry up and take a picture. Where's your phone?" Su Qianxi did not bring her bag, and she reached for his pocket. Li Xiqing slightly flinched, and his sensitive throat tightened. Su Qianxi did not notice his strangeness at all. She picked up her cell phone and took a few pictures of the 5 little clouds. Li Xiqing's phone was just bought yesterday, the latest model, with a particularly high resolution, and the fiery little clouds looked particularly good in the picture. Su Qianxi looked at it and smiled warmly. "Look, do you think it looks good?" "Yes." Li Xiqing's eyes darkened, and he looked down at her. But he did not look at the phone from beginning to end. Su Qianxi set the picture as the desktop. Looking up, she saw his deep eyes, so deep, so deep. Seeing his gaze, Su Qianxi blushed and slightly shrank back. But Li Xiqing moved faster. He reached out and clasped her head, lowering his head to kiss her fresh red lips. Li Xiqing's kiss was very light, very soft, and had nothing to do with lust. It was just a passionate kiss. After the kiss, his voice was soft and magnetic. "Let's go home. It's late." Su Qianxi looked at the time. It was already past 6 p.m., and dinner time had long passed in the old house. Blushing, she got up and drove the children away from the beach. After cleaning their feet, she helped them put on their shoes, and the family of 5 went to dinner together. After dinner, they returned to the old house. The couple helped to bathe the children. After the bath, she held one, and he held 2. The 3 children were sent directly to bed. The children had been crazy all day and soon fell asleep. When they returned to the room, it was past 8 p.m. When Li Xiqing was taking a shower in the bathroom, she received a call. It was Luo Zhan. "Hello, sister-in-law. Did you go to the beach today?" Hearing that, Su Qianxi felt a bit surprised. Sitting on the sofa, she chuckled. "How do you know? It's not just me. The entire Weibo knows about it. A lot of netizens are attacking you. Go online and take a look. You've become a trending topic." "Punish me?" She felt strange. "Are you sure you didn't use the wrong word? What did I do to offend the heavens?" Chapter 675. "Okay, go ahead. I'll have a look." Su Qianxi quickly hung up the phone, opened her Weibo, and clicked on the hot topics. The first few were very popular stars. Su Qianxi scrolled down and saw her own photos. The title was striking. Happiness or selfishness? Female CEO agreed to the proposal of an infatuated man, and then rekindled her love with her ex-husband. Seeing this title, Su Qianxi wanted to vomit blood. What the hell was this title? Infatuated man? Louis Han? Well, he was quite infatuated. However, at that time, she did not directly agree to Louis Han's proposal. But as Louis Han said, it became a bet. The last time she met Louis Han was when he gave her a note, which announced, "You won." After that, she never saw Louis Han again. Ex-husband? Only a divorced husband could be called an ex-husband, right? Feeling suffocated, Su Qianxi patiently looked at the person's document. After Su Ci, the female president of LS, agreed to the proposal of Qianli's president, Louis Han, her ex-husband returned, and all the previous vows were invalid. Today, she took her 3 sons to the beach of Kingstown with her ex-husband. With an ex-husband in front and a spare tire behind, she is so happy. *T. Su Qianxi was so angry that she almost smashed her phone. Was there anyone who could fabricate right and wrong like this? Such empty words had hundreds of thousands of likes and hundreds of thousands of replies? God damn it. Su Qianxi clicked on the first picture of the blogger's screenshot. It was her Weibo post a few days ago, with only 4 words. Bless me. Love below was an attached picture, roses, a diamond ring, and half of her and Louis Han's faces. The second picture was Louis Han's Weibo. It was not much different from the time she posted it, but it was the first time Su Qianxi had seen it. Louis Han. Today I am too. 8 meters laugh. Laugh. The attached picture was a beautiful crystal long table with a delicate candlelight dinner on it. A ring and a bunch of roses were on it, but there were no people. It should have been taken before Su Qianxi arrived. There were not many likes and comments, even less than 1/10 of Su Qianxi's. There were 7 more photos below, all of which were secretly taken at the beach today. The children's faces and the couple's faces were not censored. They were posted just like that. Su Qianxi was so angry that her hands were shaking. She clicked on the comments, and there were indeed a lot of comments against her. Single dog plus 111, I knew it. I knew a female CEO couldn't be clean. I didn't expect her to be a 2-timer. Her Majesty Queen loves me 8. Awesome sister word. Not only can you manage the company, but you can also manage men. Awesome. Louis Han's wife. I feel sorry for my Lou. If I hadn't been blind, how could I have fallen in love with her? Cry. At the same time, there were also many who spoke up for her. Modest my Sue, a mentally handicapped child seeking attention. Appraisal complete, helpless. No money you rua you. Is there something wrong with the blogger's brain? Ex-husband my ass. Li Xiqing and Susu have never divorced, okay? Hands up. So the legendary keyboard warrior is like you inverting right and wrong. Lu Kai is the 3rd son, hands up. It's Lu San who keeps chasing after our Susu. Are you blaming our Susu for her charm? Her true love has been missing for 4 years, and Susu is sincere to him. Now she has returned in a high profile. Who will she choose? The blogger is retarded. Qianqian Susi 520. Picture comment blind people come here. There are pictures to prove the truth hands. Chapter 676. Su Qianxi was furious. She opened the new Weibo account and attached a photo taken with Li Xiqing's cell phone today. 1. This is my personal emotional problem. My private life does not need to be explained to anyone other than my family. 2. Such actions not only infringe upon our rights of reputation and likeness, but also seriously fabricate facts out of thin air. Such actions constitute defamation. 3. I never let photos of my children appear in public places. I do not deny that I am a public figure, but my children are not. Please be sure to delete the photos. Otherwise, you will receive a letter from my lawyer. See you in court. 4. Li Xiqing is my husband. I love him very much. I have never divorced him. There is no ex-husband at all. I will not think about divorce now or in the future. 5. The fire 4 years ago did not take away my husband. I have always believed that. Anyone who has been following me these years knows that. Now that he is back, can the rumors about my neurosis, paranoia, hallucinations and schizophrenia, as well as the harm and speculation about me stop? Finally, thank you all for your attention and support. LS is with you. As soon as she sent the post, Her phone kept ringing. The comments were all over the place. Amazing Qianqian. I am so handsome. At the end of the advertisement I was shocked by it. Qianqian call lao shui. Cool. That's how it should be. Those idiots are completely irrational. A honest little cutie. Every time Su posts a photo with her children she censors it. That idiot doesn't censor it at all. But the children are so cute, especially the girl. I want to kiss her. She is so cute. Brother is a bed says. That's how it should be. Why talk to an idiot? I'm a fan. Huang Quan. So what about the proposal? Avoid the important and dwell on the trivial? Su Qianxi scrolled through Weibo and found a new post in her circle of friends. Reading the content, Su Qianxi became silent. Louis Han. Thank you for your attention. Qianqian and I are good friends. We have known each other for 13 years. I have always cherished this friend. Please don't make wild guesses. Acting cute. Everyone who knows Qianqian knows what kind of person she is. She is very charming. This is beyond doubt. We have been like this for more than 10 years. Sending flowers is just to commemorate the 13th anniversary of knowing each other. The diamond ring means that our love is stronger than gold and more eternal than diamonds. Laughing, everyone is thinking too much. Qianqian Suci, hurry up and explain. You can't screw over your best friend like this. I'm so busy that I have to deal with this kind of sh*t. Play by yourself, or else I'll be confiscating your birthday present. Her heart ached slightly, and her eyes soon became hot. Li Xiqing came out, drying his hair with a towel around his waist. Seeing her like this he frowned. What's wrong? Su Qianxi shook her head and clicked on Louis Han's comment. Louis Han's wife. Really? That's not what you said last time. Heartache, cry. Goddess of the melon eaters. I see. Thinking I believe it. This person is dead. Go to die. Oh my god, is that true? I knew Su would not say yes to you. It turned out to be a best friend. Applause great. Qianqian Suci, humph. If you dare to confiscate our Su's birthday present, I will not download your software. Bite me if you dare. Dash. Chapter 677. Many of Louis Han's comments were from Su Qianxi's fans. Su Qianxi reposted Louis Han's post and replied, Cry, don't do this to me. Do you know that you will be hated like this? Their usernames were either related to Su Qianxi or LS, so they were easy to recognize. Su Qianxi looked up at Li Xiqing and said, Honey. Yes. Li Xiqing frowned and wiped away her tears. His eyes fell on her phone. Taking her phone and reading the comments, his face became colder and colder. Su Qianxi noticed his mood change and took the phone back. After locking the screen, she warned him, Don't say anything. Louis Han has almost solved it for me. If something goes wrong again, you can try it. I won't. Li Xiqing spread his hands and gently pushed her, coaxing, Good girl, go take a shower first. Su Qianxi looked at him suspiciously with a warning look, and then walked into the bathroom. After using Su Qianxi's phone to browse through Weibo, Li Xiqing's face became more and more gloomy. These keyboard warriors were so arrogant that they did not need to pay a price to criticize others. Li Xiqing's face darkened. Taking his phone, he downloaded Weibo and logged in. Then he began to edit the post. After about 10 minutes he posted it. Li Xiqing. It's been 4 years since I left. Fortunately, everything is still there. The bad guys did not succeed. The wedding I promised Mrs. Li 4 years ago did not happen. Welcome everyone. The time and place will be announced later. I am Li Xiqing. No pictures, no expressions, or even symbols. It couldn't be simpler. But those who knew him knew that it was Li Xiqing's style. As soon as Li Xiqing's post was posted, it was reposted faster than Li Xiqing had expected. Picking up Su Qianxi's phone, he found that the post she had just forwarded had tens of thousands of likes and more than 20,000 comments. Searching for his name, Li Xiqing used Su Qianxi's account to forward the post and typed a few words. Hug. Blow kiss, honey, I love you. Seeing these words, Li Xiqing's lips curled. Hearing the bathroom door was opened, Li Xiqing turned off the 2 phones and put them aside. She let her hair down and draped it over her shoulders. Seeing him like that, she felt a bit weird. Pulling at her robe, She went to pick up her phone, but he pulled her down on the bed with him. He turned over and pressed her under him, saying, "Playing on your phone at night is not good for your body and mind. Why don't we do some exercise to help you sleep and relax?" Su Qianxi blushed. In fact, she wasn't wearing anything under the bathrobe, but she didn't want to do that now. She pushed him away and reached for the phone on the bedside table. "I'm just taking a look. Don't look at that. Look at me." He untied the towel around his waist and kissed her shoulder. "Ugh. I'll go first." What's the hurry, ugh?" Li Xiqing's big hand held her body and whispered in satisfaction. "You've grown a lot. You're even softer." Su Qianxi shrank her neck and blushed. She said, "It's always like this after giving birth." He untied her bathrobe, put his big hand on her butt, and said in a low, seductive voice, "Another one?" Chapter 678. Not anymore. Su Qianxi looked at him and whispered, "We already have a son, a daughter, and an adopted son. Why do we need so many?" Li Xiqing heard that and smiled. Tapping her nose, he said, "I didn't take care of the children when they were young. How about having another one for me to try taking care of a child? Family planning, Mr. Li. Now with the reform we can have more." As he spoke, he had already lowered his head and sucked on her lips. Gently rubbing and tasting, he put his lips on the corner of hers and whispered, "How about it?" Su Qianxi looked up at him with her dark and bright eyes. Suddenly she laughed and said, 10 months of pregnancy. Can you bear it?" Hearing this, Li Xiqing frowned. Thinking of the hard days he had endured, he frowned and said, "What should I do? I didn't buy a condom. I didn't take the medicine either. Last night. They did not take any protection last night." Li Xiqing pursed his lips, his voice low and gentle, with a hint of temptation. "Then let nature take its course. If he comes, we can't avoid it." After saying that, the dense kisses had already landed lightly on her chin, brushing past her neck, gently sucking on her collarbone, sucking on her chest. His movements were gentle and sincere, like the most loyal believer, worshipping his only faith, carefully and lovingly. Today he was much gentler than last night. Obviously, he deliberately suppressed himself. Until the end, Su Qianxi felt very relaxed and fell into a deep sleep. Li Xiqing cleaned up and took the phone next to him. Under his Weibo, there were actually tens of thousands of comments. Clicking on it, he found that many people wished them well. "I'm blind who should cooperate with you. It's been 4 years. It's hard for Su Qianxi to be alone. Fortunately, you are back. I hope you are happy, love. I'm trying not to beat you. Come back to life. I thought you were dead. You know? All kinds of news are reporting that you are dead. You know? Why don't you go home if you are alive? Hype. Did you lose your memory like what was written in Xiaoyan? Car accident? Or did you save the world like Ultraman? No matter what, be nice to your wife. It's not easy for her. Despise. Invincible Thunderbolt Marshall 888. What? Wedding. Where is it? Can the audience go there? Hey, if you want to go, please like me." There were all kinds of comments, but seeing that no one was scolding her anymore, Li Xiqing felt relieved. Taking Su Qianxi's cell phone, he opened the chat software and immediately saw a WeChat message from Luihan. "Don't pay attention to a lot of words on the internet. We know our own business. I wish you happiness. Second, we will always be good friends." Li Xiqing looked at the message and sneered. Good friends? Did Luihan think that he did not know how he felt about his wife? It was completely Sima Zhao's intention. Desu now refused to call him dad, mostly because of Luihan. His eyes darkening, Li Xiqing quickly typed on the keyboard and replied. She was so tired that she fell asleep. This is Li Xiqing. Chapter 679. She was so tired that she fell asleep. It was Li Xiqing who replied. There were only a dozen or so words in the reply. It was simple and straightforward. However, Luihan looked at it for a long time, and thought for a long time before he seemed to understand what the other party wanted to say. His handsome face became more and more gloomy. With a sneer, Luihan's hand holding the phone tighter and tighter. The unwillingness in his heart made him feel a dull pain in his chest. All the suffocation turned into a strong force, and he smashed the phone at the door. The phone smashed into the door, leaving a mark on the sturdy wooden door. The phone fell to the ground and suddenly broke into pieces. Louis Han suddenly got up, went to the study, and took out the liquor that he had kept for a long time. White wine, and red wine were all taken out. A glass of white wine was poured down his stomach, and the burning feeling rushed up from his throat. However, the suffocation in his heart did not decrease, but became more and more intense. Not knowing whether it was because of the white wine or something else, Louis Han only felt a burning pain in his eyes, and a layer of mist suddenly condensed in front of his eyes. Li Xiqing, after a few more glasses, the drunkenness rushed to his head, making his eyes even more painful and hot. She had already agreed to his proposal. As long as he was given a little more time, he could really take her home and announce that she was Louis Han's wife and belonged to him. But why did Li Xiqing have to come back at this time? Why Li Xiqing had been gone for so many years and died for so many years? Wouldn't it be better to just die outside? Why did he come back? Why did he come back to deprive him of the only happiness he had? It would be good to let him be happy for a few more days. The more Louis Han thought about it, the more ridiculous he felt. Leaning on the table, Louis Han held the glass and chuckled. However, the boiling hot liquid had already flowed down unknowingly, burning his heart. It was so fierce, so intense. Like a drop of highly concentrated sulfuric acid. When it fell, thick smoke rolled up, blinding his eyes and blurring his vision. Li Xiqing was back, and she was very happy. In the photos on Weibo, the family of 5 was so harmonious. Her smile was so bright, with the radiance of happiness, so beautiful that it was intoxicating. For years ago, when Li Xiqing was still alive, she also smiled like that. Only Li Xiqing could give her a smile like that. Who was Louis Han? Staring at the white wall in front of him for a while, Louis Han's smile widened and he sneered. Idiot! Throwing the glass away, Louis Han pried open the lid of the liquor and poured it directly into his mouth. The strong and choking liquid poured into his nose, causing him to cough loudly and tears to flow down his face. Headache, eye pain, but heart pain. In the end, she couldn't hold it in any longer. She leaned on the table and cried bitterly, just as Luo Zhan said. Since ancient times, no mistress had a good ending. Male mistresses are more hateful than female mistresses. He wanted to be that Shimen Qing. But his Qianqian was that Wang Baochuan, the Shuepingui who had finally arrived after waiting bitterly. From the beginning to the end, he had never truly interfered between them. Countless facts had proved that Louis Han was just a joke. Chapter 680. Ridiculous. The liquor bottle was thrown hard, and the bottle fell to the ground with a loud sound, instantly breaking into pieces. Luo Zhan just took out the key outside and heard the loud sound inside, which made him shiver. Awesome, brother word. Luo Zhan silently swallowed his saliva outside. After opening the door, he saw the bodies of the wine bottles, wine glasses, and mobile phones lying on the ground. He clicked his tongue and then stepped in carefully, for fear of being hit by something stupid. Li Xiqing was back. Some people were happy, while others were sad. Louis Han was undoubtedly one of the few people who were sad. Sighing in his heart, Luo Zhan had already expected Louis Han's reaction. He just did not expect Louis Han to be so angry that he smashed things. It shouldn't be. Did Li Xiqing do something to him? With his years of understanding of Li Xiqing, Luo Zhan felt it was very possible. His sympathy for Louis Han was even deeper. Stepping away from the bodies on the ground, he went in and saw Louis Han wearing the clothes he had worn to work today, lying on the table. On the table, there were all kinds of bottles, all of which were the ones that Louis Han had collected in his study. F***ck, after collecting for so long, it's all gone just like that? Luo Zhan finally realized how much pain he was in. Seeing the wine that couldn't even be bought with money being wasted like this, he felt a pang in his heart. He silently picked up a few bottles and placed them on the wine rack in the study. After running around 3 times, he finally finished moving all the bottles. He reached out and touched Louis Han, but Louis Han did not move. Luo Zhan reached out to pull his hair up and found that his face had turned red. Seeming to notice that he was being lifted, Louis Han's eyes opened slightly. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked a little scary. Luo Zhan was shocked and suddenly felt sorry for him. Hey! Since ancient times, too much love leads to regret. Luo Zhan helped him up and shouted, "Hey! Get up and go back to the room to sleep." Louis Han's eyes were overflowing with transparent liquid, and he held Luo Zhan's hand tightly with great strength. Luo Zhan was shocked and was about to say something when he heard him shout, "Qian Qian." Luo Zhan was dazed, but immediately felt annoyed and roared, "Qian Qian my ass! I am your Uncle Luo." "Qian Qian why?" Louis Han not only did not let go, but also reached out to hug him, buried her face in his waist, and burst into tears. Luo Zhan wanted to push him away, but after hearing his words he couldn't bear it. "Why? What's wrong with me? Why can't you see me? He's already dead. Why aren't you willing to accept me? If we got married earlier, he wouldn't have a chance." "Qian Qian. How tragic. He died a horrible death." Although Louis Han was also a computer nerd, he was very stubborn. Self-respecting, self-reliant, high EQ, high IQ, and extremely patient and persistent in dealing with people and matters. At such a young age, Qian Lu had already enjoyed a certain level of fame in the country. But why did she fall in love with a married woman? Well, she wasn't married when he fell in love with her. But after so many years, why didn't he give up? Chapter 681. Yes, things like love were always hard to predict. Although Louis Han had known Su Qianxi for a long time, his pride was too strong. Because of his family's poor condition, he wanted to start a career first, and then start a family. So he did not dare to confess his feelings to Su Qianxi. However, when he succeeded in his career, things had changed, and he was destined to be just a good friend with her. "Hey, I sympathize with you." Luo Zhan patted him on the shoulder. "Go back to sleep. Don't get drunk." Louis Han did not let go, holding his waist, breathing a little fast. Luo Zhan felt that he was so unlucky. He pulled him up, one hand under his armpit, the other around his waist, and dragged him into the room. However, Louis Han was a man of 185 pounds, strong and drunk. Luo Zhan alone was really a bit of a stretch. After dragging for less than half the journey, Luo Zhan was directly exhausted. Unable to drag him, he simply threw him to the ground. Gasping, Luo Zhan also collapsed to the side. "Oh my God, why are you so heavy? You look so thin." Luo Zhan rested for a while with his hands on his hips and dragged him again. After a few minutes, he dragged him back into the room. Luo Zhan threw him on the bed and sat on the edge of the bed, panting like a dog. After a break, he went around to help him take off his shoes and socks. After that, he found that Louis Han was sweating all over and felt even more speechless. He found the remote control, turned on the air conditioner, and adjusted the temperature to 24 degrees. Then he threw the remote control away, closed the door, and left. After a busy day, he still had to deal with these things when he came back. Luo Zhan felt so tired. Cleaning up the glass fragments of the wine bottle, he put the broken phone away and pressed a few times. Well, it was directly disabled. Taking out the card, Luo Zhan put it aside. After cleaning up and taking a shower, Luo Zhan went to sleep. Just in the middle of the night, he was awakened by the sound of banging. Getting up with a start, Luo Zhan opened the door and ran out. This was originally a single apartment, with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. And the bathroom was outside. The sound was coming from the bathroom. Luo Zhan walked in and found Louis Han lying in the transparent bathroom cubicle. The shower head was pouring water on him. His crooked suit was soaked through, and the situation didn't look good. Luo Zhan held his forehead and asked helplessly, "Brother, do you want to take a cold shower to calm down in the middle of the night? Can't you just give me some peace of mind?" As he spoke, he had already turned off the water. Li Xiqing reached out and pulled Louis Han. Louis Han shook off Li Xiqing's hand. His face was red, and his eyes were blurred. He stuttered, "I went to the bathroom, went the wrong way. Damn. Why the F***ck did you pee in the toilet?" "Flush, Luo Zhan." Well, he must have thought of the bathroom as a toilet bowl. Lifting him up, Luo Zhan looked helpless. It's too heavy. My God, how much do you actually weigh? Louis Han was a little better than before. He got up by himself and put half of his arm on Luo Zhan's body. Heavier than you, taller than you, stronger than you weak chicken. Luo Zhan was furious. He put him down and said angrily, Go back yourself. I served you, and you despised me. Why don't you go to heaven? Dash. Chapter 682. Louis Han laughed, reached out and grabbed Luo Zhan's pants. Luo Zhan was wearing pajama pants, which were big and elastic, and they were pulled down by Louis Han. What are you doing? Are you a hooligan? Luo Zhan kicked his hand angrily, quickly pulled his pants back and shouted, Do you know who I am? Luo Zhan. Louis Han said honestly. His cheeks were red, and his eyes were blurred. No, I am your Uncle Luo. Luo Zhan looked like he was not worth teaching, and reached out to pull him up. Let's go back to the room. Louis Han obediently got up, and as he walked, he reached out to unbutton his clothes. But his eyes were blurred, and after a long time, he couldn't even unbutton one. He stumbled and his body swayed. Luo Zhan opened the door of his room, and Louis Han lowered his head to unbutton his clothes, and unexpectedly hit the door. Bang! It was a huge sound. Luo Zhan had a headache. Turning around, he saw Louis Han covering his face and giggling. Turning around, he pulled his hand down, and then saw that Louis Han's hand was full of blood, and near his nose and mouth, there was red blood. Damn! So hard! Ha 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 ha! What the hell? Ha 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 ha! Luo Zhan laughed mercilessly, almost going crazy. Louis Han's nose was bleeding, and seeing him laughing like this, he was not happy. He reached out and pushed him, a little unhappy. What are you laughing at? Ha 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 ha. Louis Han silently touched his nose, and reached out to touch Luo Zhan's body. Luo Zhan very cleverly avoided a step back, and with a provocative look he said, Can't touch. But then, Louis Han slammed the door in, and Luo Zhan only saw the light dim. And then, there was a sharp pain in his crotch. Luo Zhan wailed and tears burst out. Vaguely, he seemed to hear the sound of eggs breaking. He bent over, covered his penis, and curled up on the ground in pain, unable to say a word. Louis Han did not expect that his retaliatory action would cause such a result. Shocked, he stumbled forward. Louis Han saw him like that, and knew that the situation was not good. He asked, Is it very painful? What do you think? Luo Zhan covered his crotch with tears in his eyes. I'm still a virgin. Why are you doing this to me? Let me see. Louis Han felt a little guilty. As he spoke, he reached out to take off his pants. Luo Zhan was horrified. He covered his crotch tightly, and shook his head desperately. Although Louis Han was drunk, he still had some consciousness. At the same time, she was also quite strong. She forcefully pried his hands open, and then without saying a word, she pulled down his pants. Luo Zhan felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He quickly got up and crawled outside. Louis Han was confused, but he didn't see anything. How could he let him run away? He stretched out his long hand and dragged Luo Zhan's ankle. Luo Zhan wailed, No! Louis Han, even if you can't get my sister-in-law, don't mess with me. I'm not gay. Louis Han was speechless. He pulled him hard, and Luo Zhan directly fell to the ground, feeling pain. Then Louis Han pulled hard and opened the door wide. With the light from outside, he opened his eyes wide, and looked at the place where Luo Zhan had just hit. Dizzy, Louis Han couldn't see anything clearly. Chapter 683. Luo Zhan dragged his pants, turned around and pushed him hard. His cheeks were slightly red, and he shouted angrily, Go away, drunk people should behave themselves. After that, he hurriedly got up and pulled his pants open to have a look. He deliberately found the place with the brightest light. After thinking for a long time, it seemed that there was nothing wrong with it, and it did not hurt as much as before. Looking back, Louis Han was half lying on the ground, and his nose was still bleeding. It was so miserable. Luo Zhan suddenly felt that he was an angel, a fairy. His heart was so kind. I really owe you. He went forward to help him up. Let him lean against the door, and went to find tissues. He grabbed a pack of tissues for him to wipe his face, and then went to find a pack of wet tissues from Louis Han. After wiping his face clean, he plugged his nostrils with the tissue. The nosebleed soon stopped. Luo Zhan helped him take out the tissue, patted his face and growled, "Get up, go back to bed." Louis Han was half drunk and half awake. When he heard this, he wanted to get up, but his body was not strong enough. Before he could sit up straight, he fell back down again. Luo Zhan hurriedly held him and dragged him toward the inside. But Louis Han's body had been soaked by water, and he was soaked. With a heavy sigh, Luo Zhan reached out to unbutton him, took off his suit shirt, and then touched his pants. Oh my God, he was soaked. Unbuckling his belt, Luo Zhan unbuttoned his pants, and the straight and handsome pants were pulled down. Luo Zhan suddenly felt relaxed. "Humph! Make me delicious food tomorrow, and I will fry you up. Damn, I am so tired." Luo Zhan lifted his hands, carried him on his back, and quickly threw him on the bed, only a few steps away from the bed. Luo Zhan lay on top of him, deliberately pressed his body and snorted, "Good, make me delicious food tomorrow. Do you hear me?" After that, he threw his hands back, but at this time, Louis Han's big hands not only did not leave, but also pulled him. Luo Zhan immediately fell down, and his body fell steadily on top of him. Don't go." Louis Han was half awake and shouted. Then he held Luo Zhan and rolled onto the bed. Luo Zhan's eyes widened and inexplicably, his cheeks were slightly hot. But in the next second, as if struck by lightning, he struggled madly and shouted, Hey, don't mess around, young man. How many times have I told you? I'm not gay, I'm not gay, I'm not gay." After pushing Louis Han away, Luo Zhan climbed up and felt that his face was burning. What the hell? Damn it, he's crazy. Luo Zhan was so angry that he stomped his feet. He turned around and kicked Louis Han's butt, which was only in his underwear. Pervert. Damn drunkard. Holy shit. After 4 or 5 kicks, Luo Zhan withdrew his foot, and Louis Han was kicked awake. He turned around and looked at Luo Zhan. His cheeks were red, and his eyes were also red. He was looking at him blankly, and had no idea what had happened. Luo Zhan felt guilty when he looked at him like that. He turned around, stomped his feet, and left, slamming the door, making a loud noise. Chapter 684. Luo Zhan went back to the room, fell on the bed, and looked up at the ceiling. It was already dawn, but Luo Zhan couldn't fall asleep. Thinking of the inexplicable feeling just now, Luo Zhan found a very, very serious problem. Could it be that he had already? The night was as dark as ink, and it was drizzling. This was a small affiliated village far away from downtown Kingstown. There were small old houses everywhere. In the village, there was a small restaurant in the east. Just a dozen meters away from the restaurant, there was a smelly and dark alley. There were a few tall garbage cans in it, and stray cats, stray dogs, and cat-sized mice were running around. A tall, slender figure was wrapped in tattered, dark-colored clothes. The clothes did not cover her body, revealing her deep cleavage. At the same time, there were also 2 long, white, and sexy thighs. However, her hair was messy like a bird's nest, forming a sharp contrast with her unusually fair and delicate skin. At this moment, she was squatting next to a garbage bag, turning over the fresh leftovers that the restaurant had just thrown out. It was already late at night, and the surroundings were dark. There were not many cameras on the roads in the village, and not many people would choose to go out at this time. After the restaurant owner closed the door, he looked around. After making sure that there was no one, he rubbed his hands covetously and walked into the alley. He had been paying attention to this woman for a long time. Her figure looked particularly good, and her skin was very good, but she looked a little crazy. It was estimated that she was the silly daughter of a rich man who got lost and wandered by herself. He didn't expect that he could find such a loophole. Rubbing his hands and walking in, the restaurant owner quickly found the woman he had been coveting for several days. He walked over and whispered, "Miss?" The person who was called turned back, and a pair of eyes looked particularly beautiful under the streetlight. The boss felt even more excited, and his eyes flashed with obvious covetousness. He said, Do you need help? I see that you have been here for several days. Why don't I take you to a place to wash? The woman did not speak. The boss tentatively reached out, gently put his hand on her hand and pulled. The woman did not resist, and the boss was even happier. He whispered, "Where do you live? Do you want me to contact your family?" The woman shook her head, as if she was extremely frightened. The boss was even more certain that this woman must be a fool. He joyfully pulled her up and tentatively pushed aside her messy hair, that looked like a bird's nest. With the help of the street lights, the boss could clearly see her thighs, her big breasts, and all kinds of beautiful female symbols. He was drooling. Finally, his gaze landed on her face. The boss used his fingers to push her hair aside, and suddenly his heart skipped a beat. The boss screamed and took a step back. In the next second, he tripped over a trash bag on the ground and fell on his butt. The boss was filled with fear. He looked at the woman in front of him and turned pale with fright. Under the woman's disheveled hair, there was a huge fire scar on her face. She looked ferocious and terrifying, so ugly that people couldn't help but run away. Chapter 685. Hee. The woman chuckled and walked towards the boss. Her long legs were full and smooth like jade, and her voice was as beautiful as a bell. However, her face had become a nightmarish existence. The restaurant owner screamed in horror and stepped back. He wanted to get up, but the woman had already pounced on him and pulled him over. Rumble! The muffled sound of thunder was suppressed, as if it was ringing in his ears. Didn't you want to have sex with me? Why are you running now? I can do it. I am very clean. The voice was soft, and the woman's little hand had already touched the restaurant owner's face. The woman's voice was very soft and charming. It was not hard to imagine that before her face was disfigured, she must have been a great beauty. Lightning flashed. Combined with the streetlights, the restaurant owner clearly saw her whole face. He was shocked and lost his voice. Aren't you Tang something? Tang Minjing laughed. You have a good memory. The stench of a homeless man made the restaurant owner nauseous. However, Tang Minjing had clearly noticed his intention. With a pair of murderous eyes, Tang Minjing pressed his head hard and stabbed the dagger hidden in her hand into his throat. As soon as the dagger went in, the bright red blood splashed. Because of the pain, the restaurant owner's pupils suddenly enlarged. He twisted and struggled crazily, his hands and feet twitching, trying to catch her, but soon she dodged. Tang Minjing stepped down and sank the dagger deeper into his throat. The restaurant owner twitched a few times, and then there was no more movement. His eyes were wide open, looking up at the dark sky covered with dark clouds. The fresh and bright look in his eyes became empty inch by inch. Tang Minjing loved this process. Holding his head up, she gently kissed his forehead and whispered, "Rest in peace." As soon as she finished speaking, she reached into his pocket. There was a wallet, a bunch of keys and a pile of bills and receipts. Squeezing her fingers into the neck, Tang Minjing pulled out the dagger. Bright red blood spurted out and splashed on her body. The dagger was full of bright red blood. Tang Minjing wiped it on his body and put it away. Standing up, Tang Minjing dragged him by his legs and hid him behind a pile of trash cans inside the store. After dealing with everything, he leisurely walked out, opened the restaurant door with his key, locked it from the inside, and swaggered into the lounge of the restaurant. There were a few sets of middle-aged men's clothes, and they were very big. After taking a hot shower, Tang Minjing carefully washed her knotted hair and blew it dry before putting on the middle-aged man's clothes. White shirt and black trousers very big. Fortunately, she had a belt. After fastening it, Tang Minjing went to the cashier and put all the money into her pocket. There were more than 2,000 in total, enough for her to get back to Kingstown. Then it was time to find out. She put on a mask and went to the kitchen to find a chef's hat. Holding the umbrella, she went to the back of the alley, found her high heels, and left with the umbrella. The rain was getting heavier. The blood on the ground had already been washed away, leaving no trace behind. The figure went farther and farther. In the middle of the night in this small village, no one noticed anything wrong. In the boundless darkness, under the pitter-patter of the heavy rain, a voice quietly rippled out. Li Siqing, I'm back. Chapter 686. Early in the morning, about 5 o'clock, the baby began to cry. Chengyu was in a daze and called, Rong Rui. Yeah. Rong Rui's voice sounded. Chengyu noticed that he quickly got up and went to the small crib next to her to pick up the baby. Chengyu heard that the baby was crying less and fell asleep holding the quilt. When she woke up again, it was already dawn. Chengyu rubbed her short hair and looked around. There were no children or men. After getting out of bed and washing, she opened the door and heard a female voice coming from outside. Chengyu was immediately alarmed and walked quickly to the living room. At a glance, she saw Su Qianxi holding her daughter. On the sofa, there was another man sitting. Before Chengyu could see clearly, she was pushed back by Rong Rui. Looking at her, she found that Rong Rui was looking at her with some reproach. He said, Go get dressed. There is a guest. Oh. Chengyu was wearing a thin negligee. Hearing that, she touched her nose and went back in. After changing clothes, Su Qianxi was playing with the baby. The little girl, who was more than a month old, looked at her with a pair of amber eyes, as if she had seen something novel. Looking sideways at the other side of the sofa, she saw a man sitting across from Rong Rui, wearing a straight and neat suit. His profile was angular, and his temperament was obviously softer than 4 years ago. Chengyu saw him, stared and exclaimed excitedly, Boss? Hearing her voice, Li Siqing turned his head and looked over. His originally expressionless face still did not change. However, this was Li Siqing. It was really Li Siqing. Chengyu was shocked and immediately trotted over there asking, Who am I? Seeing her like this, his dark and deep eyes became deeper. Slightly raising an eyebrow, he asked, You are asking me? Oh my God, it's really you. Chengyu was so excited that her eyes were red. Standing on the edge of the sofa, she exclaimed, The news in Weibo have been going crazy recently, but seeing it with my own eyes, it really feels like a dream. Boss, you are finally back. Rong Rui had never agreed to let her visit. The reason was that the old house of the Li family was too far away from them. She was so angry that she stamped her feet. Fortunately, they did not go yesterday, and today they came, which was far beyond her expectation. Li Siqing's eyes slightly curved as he asked, I am back. Do you want to come back too? Chengyu was dazed. What? Wasn't she here all the time? Li Siqing suddenly realized that his patience had improved a lot. He explained, Come back and be my assistant. I'm not used to working with someone else. Okay. Chengyu's eyes lit up, and she did not hesitate. I am bored to death at home. No. Rong Rui vetoed. The child is only a month old. He hasn't weaned yet. I didn't say I should go now. She said. You. Li said. Mom. More importantly, Rong Rui was basically doing laundry, changing diapers, feeding milk, and coaxing the baby. These things were all done by Rong Rui. If she took the work from him, he would be angry with her. As a result, she spent most of her time at home playing games, holding the baby, cooking, and occasionally coaxing men. She had nothing else to do. If she continued like this, she would grow hair. Everyone went to bed early. Chapter 687. Obviously, it was the life that all women wanted. But Chengyu felt that it was boring no matter how she lived it. It was at that time that she knew what everyone has his own ambition meant. No. Rong Rui stopped her, looked at her across Li Siqing and said, I can still afford you. Don't go. Oh, it's not a question of whether I can afford it or not. I have to find something to do. Otherwise, it will be too boring at home. Chengyu looked at him and pouted, a bit coquettishly. Rong Rui couldn't stand her look the most. Looking away, his tone was still firm. I said no means no. Chengyu knew that in a short period of time, he would probably not agree. She simply stopped talking, and would come back at night. Glaring at him unhappily, Chengyu quickly turned, and walked to where Su Qianxi was, holding her daughter. Rong Rui made coffee for Li Siqing. The aroma of freshly ground coffee and the smoke were rising. The simple and exquisite coffee cup in his hand showed the taste of the owner. Li Siqing looked at the exquisite and beautiful cup in his hand and asked casually, Do you know where they are? Rong Rui was adding a piece of sugar to the coffee. Hearing Li Xiqing's words, he slightly paused, gently stirred the coffee spoon, and raised an eyebrow. Who? You know who I am talking about. The voices of the two men were very low. Su Qianxi and Cheng Yu were playing with the baby. Although they knew that they were talking, neither of them paid attention to what they were talking about. Rong Rui took a sip of coffee and chuckled. New coffee from Italy. The taste is not strong at the beginning but strong at the end. Try it. Li Xiqing suddenly smiled, took a sip of coffee and nodded. It's really good. Don't you want some sugar? I like plain coffee. Slowly putting down the coffee cup, Li Xiqing looked at him with a faint smile. With a sharp look he slowly said, Tang Minjing also ran away. I know. Rong Rui felt that it was not enough, and added a little more milk. But I have nothing to do with her for a long time. Even if you ask me, I don't know. I only ask them. They of course referred to them. Rong Rui knew very well who he was talking about. However, Rong Rui still looked calm. His amber eyes looked innocent as he shrugged. I really don't know. The smile on Li Xiqing's face widened. Cheng Yu still doesn't know that those two guys are your relatives, right? Rong Rui's eyes darkened and he chuckled. Are you threatening me? I'm just asking. Why are you so nervous? Compared with Rong Rui's gloomy face, Li Xiqing looked calm. He took a sip of coffee, elegant and noble, but inexplicably irritating. Rong Rui's face darkened. I won't let her go back to work for you. She will come back. No. Li Xiqing squinted at him and said, I know her better than you do. Li Xiqing, you are even more annoying than before. His sinister and cunning skills had also reached the pinnacle. Thinking of the defeat of TL and the Bo group, Rong Rui couldn't help but be impressed by this man. And he was even more afraid of him. However, this did not mean that he was friendly to him. Li Xiqing raised his eyebrows. You are not bad either. Uffed. Rong Rui still wanted to say something, but Li Xiqing had already turned his head, looked at Cheng Yu and suggested, Why don't we have dinner together? By the way. As he spoke, he had already looked at Rong Rui with a deep and provocative look. Let's talk. Rong Rui secretly gritted his teeth. Despicable. Dash. Chapter 688. Cheng Yu did not notice the strangeness of Rong Rui. Hearing Li Xiqing's proposal, she felt a little surprised. However, holding the baby, she did not think much. She just glanced at Li Xiqing and happily said, Okay, what do you want to eat? Just go to the place I used to like very much. Li Xiqing deliberately frowned, glanced at Rong Rui and said, What is it called? Deep Sea Hui? Cheng Yu quickly answered. When Rong Rui heard Cheng Yu's words, his face suddenly became gloomy. Li Xiqing quietly curled his lips and nodded. Yes, that's it. Do you want to make an appointment first? Okay, come on Susu, help me hold the baby. I'll go find a phone. Su Qianxi took the baby, and Cheng Yu quickly left, not noticing that her husband's face had become as dark as the bottom of a pot. When Cheng Yu entered the room, Li Xiqing suddenly chuckled, leaned on the sofa and said slowly, She has been with me for 3 years. It must have taken you a lot of effort to pursue her, right? Rong Rui looked sullen and did not speak. Su Qianxi looked at these two men, and vaguely felt that something was wrong. Just looking at the atmosphere between the two of them, she knew it was not very harmonious, but she did not know what had happened. Li Xiqing met her gaze, looked calm and indifferent, stood up, tidied up his clothes and walked out of the sofa. Let's go. Cheng Yu has already finished the phone call. Okay. Su Qianxi also had a deep understanding of Cheng Yu's efficiency, but such words fell into Rong Rui's ears, which was not very comfortable. Cheng Yu had a crush on Li Xiqing, which he knew very well, and she did not hide her admiration and worship for Li Xiqing. Rong Rui had no doubt that if Li Xiqing insisted, or a little provocation, Cheng Yu would definitely change sides. It was just a matter of time. Despicable. Sure enough, just a few minutes after Li Xiqing's voice fell, Cheng Yu had already come out with her bag and a mother's backpack. Directly throwing the mother's backpack to Rong Rui, she went to the utility room and pushed out a stroller. After wrapping the baby in, she said, Let's go, I have already booked a seat. But when she turned her head, she found that Rong Rui's face became even more gloomy. She looked inexplicably and asked, "What's wrong?" "I'm fine." Rong Rui's face gradually returned to normal, but he still looked pale. He shook his head and said slowly, "Let's go." Today Li Xiqing was driving his old modified sports car, which could not fit the stroller at all. After Chengyu took the car from the garage, the 4 adults and 1 child went to the restaurant where Chengyu had booked a seat. Neither of the 2 women had a big appetite, and Chengyu and Su Qianxi quickly talked about their mothers. Li Xiqing looked indifferent, eating slowly. Compared with Rong Rui, who looked tense, he was obviously much calmer. "Chengyu," he suddenly called. She held the baby and looked up. "Ah, you know Rong Rui's family?" "Li Xiqing." Rong Rui interrupted him with a gloomy face. "Shall we go to your company later?" Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Sure. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."